Season's greetings! And welcome to the future, otherwise known as episode 47, Christmas special of Tomorrow's World, Audit Time. Season's greetings, Mark.
Season's greetings, Russ. I don't know about you, but I am so glad you've added on that fake sound of fire in the background, 'cause it's bloody cold.
Nothing warms you up like the crackle of an MP3, Mark.
That I won't hear until Christmas Day when I listen to this episode with my family. With we tuck into our delicious food.
This is exciting, isn't it, Mark? I have to say, obviously, it's Christmas. That's very exciting. But we are recording. Don't want to let daylight in upon magic, but we are recording slightly before Christmas, aren't we? Because we didn't think we'd have the time to just do this live.
Like we normally do every year, obviously. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But
live from the Dutch Alps.
Indeed. Yeah. But yes, very exciting, Mark. A little bit nervous, actually, because later on this evening, after we record this episode, we're going to do something quite unprecedented, aren't we?
Well, for us. I've precedented for a lot of people, but not for us, Russ.
Well, thanks to our good friend and, what do we call him, our podfather?
Fairy podfather?
Fairy podfather, Al Needham. He somehow wangled us a little guest spot on BBC Radio 5 Live.
Yeah.
So, the hallowed midnight slot, we'll be chatting to Tony Livesey about Tomorrow's World. It's going to be exciting, isn't it?
It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was going to say, if it's a disaster, no one's going to listen to this because you'd have cut this out of the episode. So.
Absolutely. But, of course, if it is the absolutely magnificent success that I assume it will be, Mark.
Which is your inclination, of course, to assume.
Then I'd like to say hello and Merry Christmas to our thousands of new listeners that have subscribed. Yeah. Subscribed after hearing us absolutely triumphant on the radio.
That's true. That's a better way of putting it than the way I put it. It's a Christmas miracle, Ross.
Yeah.
I wonder if I'll be brave enough to even say anything on air. Let's find out. How exciting.
It's not like you to be short of a thing or two to say, Mark, I must say.
I know. I was going to say, the other reason we're excited, though, is that we're a bit nervous as well. A bit nervous and exciting, because this is unprecedented. The amount of times when I have told people people know we do a Christmas special, the amount of times people said, you can do one of the quizzes. You're going to do one of the quizzes? And I don't want to spoil anything, but maybe we might do one in the future. Let's see.
Yes, I think in previous years we sort of thought about doing the quiz. Because the thing I associate most Tomorrow's World at Christmas is the quiz. It's a staple of our childhood. But I think in previous years we've looked at it and gone, that looks a bit too tricky to tackle.
Yeah, what would we talk about? How are we going to fill 2.5 hours?
I feel like, considering we managed to spend 2.5 hours talking about H&P at BBC. Then we're prepared to talk about anything, aren't we, Mark? I think we've got the practice in over the years.
Trial by fire, yeah.
Yeah. So we thought we'd actually tackle one of the Christmas quizzes. They ran from, the first one was in 1986, and then the last one was in 1992. So they're all presented by Howard. I do wonder whether it was Howard's brainchild, because obviously before he joined Tomorrow's World, he presented a quiz show on children's TV called Beat the Teacher. Which, I don't know whether is that deliberate? I suppose that's a deliberate choice of title, isn't it?
I'd say so, yeah.
So presumably he has sort of bona fides in the quiz show presenting department. I don't know whether he suggested doing this or not, but he's an absolute natural at presenting the thing, and he presented it every year. I decided we'd do an 80s one because this is when it was first started, and I looked at 1986, and I was quite excited because 1986 had Roland Rat in it, so I was going to go with that.
You did text me that.
But then I watched the 1987 one, and I'm afraid in the war of the 80s puppets, another one won through, Mark. One of my truly favourite puppets we'll get to later in the show. Spent most of my research watching clips of that.
Is that why you finished
had a great
4 minutes before I joined this Zoom?
Yeah, had a great time this afternoon, absolutely roaring with laughter. So that's something to look forward to. Yeah, I don't know whether people will remember the quiz or not. I'm sure you'll do. But the format of the quiz is essentially Call My Bluff or Would I Lie to You? for younger listeners. What happens is the presenters take turns to hold up this same item and then explain what its purpose is. It's a mystery item we've never seen before. And out of three of them, it's up to the audience, who've got little voting buttons, to decide which one is true. And there's also a panel of experts who also decide it's true. So it's audience versus the experts. And it's good fun. And also, yes, quite a few celebrity guest stars come in to demonstrate the things as well. And that's, I think, where most of the fun of the episode comes in.
And sprinkled with a light dabble of showbiz magic, right?
Yes, yeah. And where most of my research went, I must say, this time, because there's not really a huge amount of science in this, I'm going to say.
It's a Christmas special. It's a Christmas special, Russ.
But excitingly, Mark, I have found that some of these things that they show are still commercially available, and I will be telling you where and for how much.
Oh, fabulous! To be honest,
there's still time to stock up on your Christmas presents, isn't there, Mark? That's the thing.
Yeah, well, there is for us, but not for anyone listening.
Oh, yes, good point.
I'm actually amazed that you said to me that they're still commercially available, because when I watched this program, I was not convinced they were commercially available in 1987. So it's going to be a real journey for me, Russ.
Right.
Shall we?
Oh, actually, one more thing. I've just remembered.
Oh, sorry.
Good grief. I normally go through I say normally. I definitely did it last year, and I think the year before as well. Go through what the top 10 Christmas presents were for.
Oh, yes.
That
absolutely.
year.
Oh, yes.
And I don't need to go through it myself this time because... Hang on, let me get it up. So
here we go. Oh, gosh, look at that.
This report. This is an actual news report from 1987. And they present the top 10 Christmas gifts in Top of the Pops style.
Oh, wow.
This doll, Cricket, may not have the film star looks of the others, but at £59, she comes a lot cheaper. And through the magic, it says on the box, of Kidnetics, she has something useful to say.
So let's take a look at the top 10 toys then. Ready?
At number 10, the ever-popular Fisher-Price preschool range. At 9, right down from number 3, a nasty fall for My Little Pony. After 2 years at the top of the chart, down to 8 for Transformers. Joint number 7, still neck and neck, those classic plastic beauties, Barbie and Cindy. Mask from the TV cartoon series goes up 3 places to number 6. And brand new at 5, David Coleman's A Question of Sport.
Well, what a good opening round.
Straight in the chart at 4, another toy from a cartoon series, Thundercats. What is Terry Wogan's real name? Trivial Pursuit is at number 3. This year's highest new entry, at number 2, Furry Friends, the Sylvanian Families. And the final brick in the wall, last year's number 2, Legoland, makes it to number 1 in 1987.
Christmas, everyone. Happy Christmas, everyone.
Well, we found what you're going to play the show out with, Russ, in the background. Happy Christmas, everyone. That was chilling.
Yeah, and obviously, I don't know whether you noticed when he had Trivial Pursuit there, for some reason he said, what is Terry Wogan's real name?
Yeah.
I don't want to leave anybody hanging there. His full name is Michael Terence Wogan, so his first name is Michael. So there we go.
Liar. Not the first lie in this episode. It won't be the last. That was amazing. What a weird thing for BBC News to just straight up advertise. I can only assume it's because they wanted to shift some of those question of sport boxes that must have been hanging around the studio.
yeah, that's probably it, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't think I had mass toys. There was nothing on that list that I got that year because I think, if I remember correctly, 87, I think was the year. I think I've discussed this before. Was the year I was unwell. But my memory is of wearing a grey shirt with black tie for Christmas Day and feeling, quite excited, even though I was unwell. But I think this is the year I got one of my favourite toys of all time, which was, I'm sure I've told you about this, Russ, but maybe no one else, was this A-Team helicopter that when you had a little handle on the back, kind of yay big, it proportionate to the size I am now, not like, it wasn't kind of, as a child it wasn't huge, it was proportional. It was like a kind of a big, big American military helicopter. And when you landed it, with the rotor blades turned, you'd pull the trigger in the back, and as you lifted off the helicopter, it would leave behind a little A-Team van.
Oh, fantastic.
I absolutely loved it, Russ. Adored that, and I think that was this year.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And that A-Team van, I bet that A-Team van was painted all black, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. The only grey thing that Christmas was my shirt and everyone else's clothes, and all the wallpaper and the kitchen cupboards, and maybe a little bit of red here and there. You know what the 80s are like.
Yeah. I'd love to know why all the toy A-Team vans were all black, and the A-Team van in the programme was grey and black. It's one of the great mysteries of our age.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that, Russ.
Anyway, so yes, Top Toys 1987. Let's get into this thrilling Christmas episode.
Welcome to the Tomorrow's World Christmas Quiz. Now, if you've ever been baffled by science or bemused by technology, well, don't worry, because sometimes so are we. You just wouldn't believe some of the things that inventors come up with. And that's what this quiz is all about. We've got a host of guest stars, a studio audience who'll be fully entangled with things like this. Now, this one's an easy one, of course. Just as it appears, it's an ashtray for yachts and small boats. You suspend it like this and it always remains vertical, no matter which way the boat's going. And so there's no danger of a floating fag end. That's right, isn't it, Peter?
No, Howard, that is entirely wrong. Because what this really is a chicken roaster. Now, hang on a minute, my career's on the line here. The vital fact is that this chicken can sit like that in the roaster, which means that the hot air can circulate all the way around and inside, and it gives what the Chinese believe is the perfect crispy chicken. Beautiful.
Never believe strange men, and they don't come stranger than these two. In fact, this is a special metal palette for restoration artists. You mix the gilt paint in here, wipe the brush so, and any drips go straight back into that tray.
Well, as unlikely as it surely must seem, one of us is actually telling the truth, and it's up to the audience to try and win points by deciding just who it is. Keeping order among the mayhem is Maggie.
Well, doing my best. Though, of course, we've got a top-quality audience here tonight, because each one of them is armed with one of these little buttons, you see, and they can select their choice. So if you like, press your buttons now, audience. Let's see which one you reckon it is. Is it the boating ashtray, the chicken roaster, or the paint palette? Well, it looks like the paint palette has got it with 42%, but are we right?
Well, you said it was a top-quality audience. They're all wrong. It was, in fact, the chicken roaster.
Well, that means that Judith and I were telling complete rockers. I see you're going to have your work cut out up there as well, Maggie.
Oh, Mark, we're straight into the fun here, aren't we? Everyone's bouncy and cheerful, cracking jokes. Howard's got a fantastic Christmas jumper on. Judith's got a party cocktail dress on, and Macann is wearing beige slacks and a grey shirt.
Classic Macann.
But yeah, no, Howard's jumper though. I know you're a big fan.
Oh, it's a thing of beauty. It's genuinely stunning. It's that familiar kind of blue and white Tomorrow's World logo. They have the globe with the blue underneath. And I will say, for the huge fans of me breaking down new opening credits in enormous detail, the only difference from this opening credits is that they have very, very poorly photoshopped the identifiers of a Christmas pudding on top of the circle at the end of the globe. His jumper, however, is an astounding version of that logo. It's genuinely, honestly, if it was available to buy, Russ, I would have bought it.
I know it's too late this year, but yeah. Perhaps next year, if we get into gear, we can start selling these in our merch shop. And I got a few fly off the shelves,
our merch shop. Yeah, absolutely. God, I hope we have someone who works in high fashion who can help us pull this off. Flying off a shelf.
Yes.
It looks great though, and you're right. Everyone's in a great mood. I have to say, because I was a bit kind of reticent to do a quiz one because my faculties for dealing with cringe, they were never high anyway. But I don't know. Maybe in this post-COVID world, they are absolutely through the floor. I cannot tolerate it. I will turn in on myself and just kind of like I'm imploding. And so I was a little bit nervous at the beginning, but actually with hindsight, you look back at this. Everyone is pulling together in this episode. Everyone is there to have fun. And it does start with it. But I will say this. I also have completely forgotten how the show worked. So when our Howard pulls out this object and says with absolute certainty that it is an ashtray for boats, I was completely incredulously took it all on board. To me, I mean, there's nothing more natural in the world, as any regular listener would know, than owning a boat or yacht. At least that's what they seem to think in Tomorrow's World. So naturally, it's like, oh, well, of course. Already, tick one box already, boats.
I think it qualifies, doesn't it? It qualifies.
Oh, 100%, Russ.
Yeah. But yeah, so what we're going to do, aren't we? We're going to, as we go through, the first time we watched this, we each played along as well.
We did,
so
yeah,
we
absolutely.
Want to, so we just want to, point out which ones we agree. Because I don't think it's even the case which ones we got right or which we got wrong. It's which ones we agree with, isn't it, more than that?
Yeah, I think, funnily enough, Russ, I think we completely agree with you. I don't think there's any difference in our answers whatsoever. So it's not like we're competing against each other. We're more kind of competing against, the program itself, I suppose.
Yes, yeah. So I immediately recognised this as a chicken roaster, vertical chicken roaster, and yes, plenty available. There's one, an identical looking one available on Amazon. It only costs you £6, Mark.
Okay.
Classic stocking filler.
Yep.
And obviously we get a demonstration of how the voting works with Maggie in the audience there. Maggie wearing quite a bold, oversized purple outfit, which we do later find out that she is fairly pregnant, so maybe that's why she's got such a large dress on. It doesn't explain why some of the other people are wearing such large dresses.
No.
I think maybe it's just the fact it's 87 is what explains that. This used to have these quite a lot around the time, isn't it? The audience have little primitive-looking square voting boxes in their hands, and then they get to vote on things. So they're getting to vote for the right answer. Almost like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, really, isn't it? When they
in my head, I was thinking of You Bet.
Oh yes, yeah.
Didn't they have one on You Bet? But it also felt like a big, large object, like I don't know, like if one of your uncles or your dad ever had like a railway in their attic, or your granddad, it felt like the Transformers part was this bit. Yeah, but I suspect his setup is a bit fancier, but because it felt like you get this kind of massive brick with like just a dial on it, and that would send the train. So this has this kind of similar effect to it. But the weird thing was there seems to be 3 buttons, which would make sense because there are 3 options, but 2 of them are next to each other and one is completely separate. So she gives no indication as to how operating the 2 buttons next to each other allows you to vote for 3 things.
Yeah, it almost looks like it would be you use the two buttons to go up and down the selections, and then press the big button to choose.
Correct, which would make sense if you had an individual screen showing a selection.
Which they don't.
Which they do not.
I also would like to suggest, obviously, we've got this big, like 4x4 display television display screen, because obviously they can't have a single screen back in 1987, and the voting graphs go up and down as the votes are being counted.
Yes,
that's not real, is it? That's just an animation.
My suspicion is the same as yours, which is that it is an animation until they actually know what the result is, and then they show that.
Yeah.
It seemed like a level of sophistication that was beyond 1987.
Yeah, and potentially BBC lies, Mark. That's all I'm saying.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Russ. Even though I've already stated that as a fact, let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's Christmas. It's Christmas, Russ. Goodwill to you all.
Also, biggest, most mullety that we've seen Howard's hair.
Yeah, 100%.
He's nearly Riggs in Lethal Weapon here, isn't he? Basically,
actually, especially the way you paused it, he looks very smug, doesn't he?
Anyway, right, he's going to introduce our esteemed panel. Let's see what cavalcade of stars we have.
But the audience is just one of 2 teams. They need someone to play against. So would you please welcome our celebrity panel of experts. The captain this year is someone who has a detailed knowledge of the veterinary world from his role as James Herriot in All Creatures Great and Small, Christopher Timothy. Christopher, introduce your panel to us, would you?
On my immediate left, ladies and gentlemen, is Leslie Rees, the Professor of Endocrinology at Barts. Leslie Rees, ladies and gentlemen. And on my far left, John Albury, who is Professor of Physical Chemistry at Imperial College. John.
Welcome to you all, and good luck. You're going to need it.
Christopher Timothy. I haven't thought about Christopher Timothy for a long time, Mark.
No, not at all. Memory hold 'em.
I've got to say, I'm impressed by his work ethic. Turns out he tends to be in programmes that we don't really watch. I was surprised he never turned up in a as a cop. You'd think he'd follow the sort of the John Nettles sort of thing. He'd be starring something along those lines.
Yeah.
But no, very very much stuck in the medical field. Obviously, I would say most famous All Creatures Great and Small, which obviously is referenced here. Still very much going strong at this time. Ran from 78 to 1990.
Jesus Christ.
90 episodes. I've got a feeling in the notes that you had some sort of beef, as it were, with All Creatures Great and Small.
No, not a beef. No, it's just like no. I don't think I convey any negativity. I merely am conveying to you my particular feelings about All Creatures Great and Small, which to me was I just hated it, Russ. I absolutely hated it as a child growing up. It was the definition of that signifier that the weekend and all the joy in the world had come to a conclusion, and that bedtime and reality had to return. Mm-hmm. And, you know, as regular listeners will know, you know, I have a deep love and respect of nature, Russ. The countryside in particular. And I absolutely adore it when people fetishize a past that didn't actually exist. So in many ways, it should be the ideal program. But in my own personal research for this episode, which I know I'm not allowed to do, I looked up the opening credits, and I am not exaggerating when I say a shiver went down my spine at watching that. I could, you know, I don't know what I don't know what is a negative Proustian rush.
Proustian shrug? I don't know. No, Proustian.
Oh, I don't know. Like a Proustian trough. I don't know what it was, but it was the opposite to a Proustian rush, whereby it absolutely, like, I completely sent a chill down my spine. It bored me to I don't even think we watched it as a family, but just that theme music. And as I was saying to my wife earlier, I cannot get the damn thing out of my effing head at the moment. It's absolutely miserable.
I have to absolutely disagree with you, Mark.
I know, completely.
I think the ack gas, as it's known in the TV trade, ack gas.
Classic. You're a classic ack gas fan of everyone.
Ack gas theme tune is absolute stone cold banger, and I'm going to insert it into the episode here.
And the other thing was watching it. It's like, because you know me, I quite like a kind of a small rectangular vehicle traversing through country lanes. You know, I would argue that, you know, I have argued that the Postman Pat van is like the platonic ideal of a vehicle in many ways in my heart. So there's a lot I should like about this one. But when it cuts to the interior of the car, the smug satisfaction in everyone in that car as they chortle at whatever it was that they were filming. Oh my God, I wanted them to careen off the road. Other than that, I've got no beef with ACAS or whatever you call it. ACGAS.
ACGAS. Yeah. Well, hopefully that now I've played that tune, it will be repeating in everyone's heads all day.
Oh yeah, well there is that, but I demand you write in and agree with me.
I mean, I definitely did watch ACGAS with my family.
There was never a doubt in my mind.
I mean, I don't remember huge amounts of it. But I remember being confused as to why Doctor Who was in it because he just looks the same as he does in Doctor Who, Peter Davison, and he basically dresses pretty much the same. So it was very confusing. You know, when you're younger, you don't necessarily understand why the same person is in multiple things.
Yes,
you know what
I
I mean.
do. Yeah.
The big thing is just how often they had their hand up cows' backsides. And I think I'm pretty sure I've mentioned in the previous episode that I did work experience with a vet when I was at school, and he did indeed spend most of his days with his hands up cows' backside. So the thing was that it was actually very authentic. But I was reading about it because obviously they didn't have like a fake cow or anything. They were filming on location. Wow. They were filming on location, so they really did make the actors stick their hands up the cow's bum.
Stanislavski method, isn't it? Get right up in there.
So I've got this great sort of paragraph here. When it came to the oft joked about insertion of an arm into a cow's rear end, Peter Davison said, "People think we cheated or something. I tell them that the BBC are not going to pay for a stunt cow that I can put my arm up." Robert Hardy added, "It's enchanting, because once you've got your hand inside, you can understand how the interior works."
Oh, enchanting.
Davison first had to perform this examination in the Series 1 closer Breath of Life in 1977. He said, "I had not yet been called upon. Now here in black and white, interior barn, Tristan is stripped to the waist with his arm up a cow. I spent so many days worrying about it, I didn't even give much thought to the cold weather. The series was set in 1937, when vets didn't have the luxury of modern rubber gloves, so therefore neither did the actors portraying them. All we had was a bar of soap, a bucket of warm water, and our veterinary advisor, Jack Watkinson, to show us what to do. It's very simple," he said. "A quick up and down the arm with the bar of soap, and in you go."
Bosh. I mean, these days they'd have an intimacy coordinator, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Of course, when I got on with it, it wasn't so bad. And even the cow seemed to quite enjoy it. Yeah. What was the last bit he said? "Afterwards, with a real sense of achievement, I made my way back to get cleaned up, and even the Sparks seemed to look at me with new respect. Although I felt sorry for them having to clean the cow shit off the cables after filming." Lovely.
The only other thing I'd add is that, and this is no dig on their panel guest, but is it just me, or was there a problem in the 80s and 90s whereby the profession of a character an actor would play would be confused with the actor themselves? So Howard genuinely, with all seriousness, describes Christopher Timothy as, let me just look at it, he has a detailed knowledge of the veterinary world. Not his character, but he does. Now, to be fair, I wrote that before knowing that he really genuinely had his arm shoved up a cow half of filming.
Yeah, he's regularly armpit deep in a cow.
Yeah. However, I would still argue that doesn't give him a detailed knowledge of the veterinary world. That gives him a detailed knowledge of the backs of cows.
I'm pretty sure that's the only thing vets know how to do, Mark. I think that once you've done that, you basically got your vet certificate. As long as you've got the minerals to get your arm right up there, they go right, fine.
I don't know. I will say, like, my sister-in-law, her brother is a vet in the countryside, and obviously we've talked about stuff like this, and there is a lot more to his career than shoving arms up horses, but he did bust his leg, or foot, I think, which meant because he couldn't stand, he couldn't really do his job because he couldn't shove his arm up a cow. So, I don't know. I'm kind of in two minds about that one.
It's restricted to Shetland ponies for a month.
And cats, obviously, yeah. And then the only other thing I want to complain about is just that I still, even at my age, I'm not sure how I feel about people who have a first name for a surname. But
Yeah,
That's just maybe I'm just being rude. But you know, Christopher Timothy, I don't know. There's just something just slightly unsettling about that.
Oh, and also, one other thing about Christopher Timothy two things about Christopher Timothy before we move on. He was one of the original doctors in the TV programme Doctors.
Which is just finished, yeah.
Yeah, he played Brendan McMaguire. He was in 920 episodes of that thing.
Wow.
That's a work ethic, isn't it?
Why wouldn't you stick out another 80 just to get to 1,000?
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, that's incredible, though. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Hell.
And also, I didn't know about this. He was, in the 1970s, before he got the gig as James Herriot, he did the voiceovers, very famous voiceovers for the Sun newspaper. And they were the first time that quite such like over-the-top, boisterous...
Yeah, in terms of advertising?
Boisterous sort of vocals were used in adverts. I found one. It's quite a time capsule, Mark.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, I'm not going to like this, am I?
That nice little woman down your street. Underneath it all, she's one of the huntresses. This week, the Sun looks at a new breed of woman who no longer waits to be asked. Young and old, single and married, they all hunt their men and bring them back alive. Meet the huntresses in the Sun. Learn how to talk to your body to make it beautiful in the Sun.
And let them truckers roll.
Find out what it's like in the world of the truck driver. Discover the secrets of their private code, learn their slang, and meet their girls in Go Trucker Go. All in your super 5p Sun this week.
Wow. Gosh.
That's quite something, isn't it?
What a time capsule. Indeed.
Yes, and then obviously on the rest of the panel, we've got two. I thought this was actually quite nice. They actually got two proper scientists as
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
I feel like in the modern era, it would just be two vacuous celebs of some kind, probably pretending to be a bit stupider than they actually are.
I thought that was a great observation. They would be pretending to be a lot stupider than they actually are. Absolutely correct.
Yeah. People do that now, don't they? They think it makes them seem more
approachable.
Common. Yeah, it just irritates the hell out of me.
Yeah. Whereas these two guys, you're going to tell us about them in a second, but like they actually have real charisma and add gaiety to the show.
Yes, yeah. The first one is Dame Leslie Reese. She's born in 1942. Went to Pate's Grammar School for Girls in Cheltenham. But the reason why she's sort of a bigwig at the time is she's the first ever woman to serve as chairman of the UK Society of Endocrinology, and also the first person who wasn't American to serve as Secretary General of the International Society of Endocrinology. So she knows all about hormones, Mark. She's an absolute top expert on hormones. I imagine the studio is absolutely heady with them. Everyone's had a drink. There's some
of them are out of the house.
Yeah. And some of the time she's looking at Macann there, I think maybe some of her hormones are storing, Mark. That's what I'm saying.
Just a wee bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I spotted it. You spotted it. I think we all spotted
it. and then there's John Albury. Actually, his real name's Wyndham John Albury, which is nice. But he's born in 1936, died in 2013. But he actually comes from a legendary theatrical family. So all of his relatives and predecessors, the Albury family, were big sort of playwrights and theatre owners in London, and they're regarded as one of the main reasons why London's West End and theatre land is such a big tourist attraction. It was all down to them doing it. So he's kind of like the black sheep of the family, going into science.
He is quite theatrical, though, isn't he? He does have stage presence.
Yes, he doesn't have the looks of an acting star, does he, though, Mark?
I'd say the character actor, right? Rather than leading man.
Yeah.
As long as the character actor is like a scientist.
Yeah, if you want to cast somebody as a scientist, some sort of sweaty pervert, or a Tory cabinet minister,
who for science,
he'd be absolutely brilliant. But yeah. But yeah, the other interesting thing about him is that he was the person. You remember when Bill Clinton visited Oxford University? Big news story in 1994, I think it was.
Yeah.
He was the man who hosted Bill Clinton. So because he was the master of Bill Clinton's former college, University College in Oxford. So yeah, that's his other claim to fame. So shall we get on to the first official
mystery object?
Right, let's get straight on with the first round. 10 points available. Peter, your explanation, please.
Thank you, Howard. Now, have you ever tried laying concrete on a slope when you want the concrete to be flat? Well, here's a clever new device which might just help. You can see there's a peg on this side, and if I spin that round, the top sort of levels off. So we can check that exactly with a spirit level. That's about right there. Then I can exchange it for a plank, which can be as long as you like, run that around, and every now and again knock in a peg and make sure that the top of the peg is exactly level with the bottom of the bar here. Do that all the way around, and of course all those pegs will be precisely in line. And all that then remains is for you to pour in the concrete and impress the neighbours to death. Easy.
A good try, Peter. But in fact, this is the very latest in cake icing aids. Now, the real professionals always have something that spins like this. Very important. But the brand new feature is a handle underneath, and you can move that round until this is at the perfect angle for the really tricky bit. Now, it won't surprise you to see what I'm writing. Happy Christmas. And it also won't surprise you to hear me say that this makes icing a piece of cake.
Not bad. Possible. But it's now time to bring on our third option and the first of our star guests. It's a lady whose words aren't usually in doubt. Ladies and gentlemen, Moira Stuart!
Actually, this piece of equipment is great for those of us who have to sit down for a living. It is a portable exerciser, and there's a lever on the side that will adjust the level high or low depending on how much exercise you want to do. And the first thing it'll exercise for you is your sense of balance. As you can see, I could do with some improvement. But this is really great for exercising your leg muscles, your thighs and your calves. So for the skiers amongst us, this will get you fighting fit for the slopes. Just don't break a leg when you get there.
So, with Peter's suggestion, the concrete's on the level, but is he? Judith enjoys icing her cakes with hers, or is it a thigh exerciser for skiing newscasters? Panel, it's your decision.
I think it's got to be something to do with the angle that the thing goes at. And the only one which seemed to use that was the cake. So I'm going for the cake.
Fine. Leslie?
Yeah, well, I don't like the exercise thing because one of the major things about skiing is you shouldn't stick your bottom out. And you can't wiggle your thighs like that without sticking your bottom out. So I agree with John. I think it's the cake icer.
I think it's the cake.
OK, the icing machine. All right, Maggie, what about thoughts in the audience?
I don't know. I know that you were shaking your head at Moira's. Do you not believe it's that?
No, I don't. I think you need pads for your backside.
Which one would you go for, then?
The concrete leveler.
The concrete leveler.
Yes.
So you say the concrete leveler. Well, let's see whether everybody else agrees with you. Well, the thigh exerciser looks popular at the moment, but the cake icing stand is drawing level. Ooh, well, yeah, the cake icing stand has got it with 54%.
So, both the audience and the panel have gone for the icing machine. Well, let's reveal it. Will the person who was telling the truth please step forward? It was Moira's exerciser, so the show's off to a cracking start with no points each. And thank you very much, Moira Stuart.
Just watching that actually made me think there, Russell, sorry. What year did quiz shows and panel shows, especially like that, stop having just seats on a dais with, like, no desks?
Oh.
And just, like, little pedestals with the score on and, like, a flower.
Yes, yeah.
That was very 80s and 90s, wasn't it? That kind of, well, and earlier as well. But, like, at some point, it was decided you have got to have desks. Yeah, we must hide these legs.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. Yeah. Noel's Telly Addicts, was that the last one to not do that?
Gosh, yeah, that does make sense. Or the first one to not do it. Yeah. I don't know, Russ. That's a great shout. Anyway, that's for a future episode of Tomorrow's World all the time.
I think this is the one that we both most disagree with in terms of what...
100%, yeah.
It's almost like they've made some sort of mistake.
Not with each other, but with the show.
Yeah.
We both agreed instantly when we saw this that this is clearly for cake decoration.
Yeah.
In my case, because my wife genuinely owns almost exactly what Judith Hann demonstrates.
Yeah.
To the point now where I am beginning to wonder, do I live in a house of lies, Russ? Is this secretly some kind of thigh exercise that she hasn't told me about? No, it's a cake decorator. I mean, it's clearly a cake decorator. And I was even asking her about it. I was asking, it's like, that tilts, doesn't it? Like, because of course, yeah. So you can kind of write on it. It's like, and then to see Moira Stuart step forward, I was gobsmacked, like shocked, disgusted, Russ.
Yeah. Do you think it's like the old Oscars thing, the La La Land Moonlight situation?
Yeah.
But they didn't bother to correct it, and actually, they got confused. It looks rubbish as an exercise device, doesn't it?
It doesn't work. It's pathetic. I suppose the only thing that did dawn on me is that I suppose this was the era of like the fad exercise thing. Not like calisthenics, but like the Jane Fonda or the Green Goddess, or this is slightly before Mr. Motivated. But also, like, I did remember my uncle having an abdominizer in his house, which was that kind of blue plastic thing that you kind of rock back and forth on. Those stomach muscles. Yeah. And I knew he had it because it was on top of his wardrobe, and I don't think it ever moved.
Did he have rock hard abs?
He has rock hard abs, of course. I'm surprised. With hindsight, it was up there next to a cake decorator.
But I genuinely wonder whether the makers of this thing saw this episode, and went, bloody hell, that's clearly much better as a cake decorator.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's just switch lanes. Let's just change the boxes and start selling them as cake decorators.
Because God knows no one must be buying them to sort out their thighs, right? So there must be a warehouse full of them.
Well,
it's clear.
Because I even checked online. And you can get exercising discs for standing on for your waist. They tend to be a bit smaller than this, and I didn't see any that tilt. They're just flat on the floor. Some of them have handles that come out. But you can get one of those for like £10. But if you want a tilting cake decorating table, which looks exactly like one of these basically, but more sort of pedestal-y, that will cost you £20. So they can make more money at selling cake decorating tables than they can make twice as much money selling cake decorating tables as waist exercising things. So
that's interesting because when Moira gets on it, she doesn't utilize the angle. She is just swiveling on the horizontal. So because I suppose with hindsight, you can imagine if it was tilted, you could see how it would be. Because she says it's about skiing, doesn't she? Oh, that's interesting. So twice as much money to be gained from Bake Off fans as ski fans, right?
Yes, yeah. And speaking of Moira, it doesn't look like she needs to do any exercise, Mark, because it looks like she's just stepped off an NFL field, doesn't it? Really,
absolutely.
She's gone full quarterback. I'm amazed that she can even get through those studio doors with shoulders that broad.
Yeah, she's like those. She's like the American footballers from the first Beetlejuice film, right?
It's astonishing. Because Moira Stuart is a very slim lady, but you wouldn't know from those bad boys. It's amazing. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I thought in the battle of the shoulder pads initially that Leslie Reese was gonna walk it because she's got pretty decent shoulder pads there. But then Moira just comes in and absolutely barges her out of the way.
I hate to see them in a scrimmage. Yeah.
But it's nice to see Moira. I've always thought she's one of the best newsreaders of all time. Really, she's very authoritative, very clear, It's always a joy to watch. Found out a few things about it. She's the first female newsreader of Caribbean heritage in the UK ever. Her grandmother was the first black woman to be a student at Edinburgh University. Her grandfather, and the husband of her grandmother, was a famous doctor, parliamentarian, civil rights activist and Labour leader in Bermuda, regarded as perhaps the only charismatic leader to have emerged in the island's modern political history, and was honoured as a national hero of Bermuda in 2011.
Well, that's something.
So she comes from a very sort of, what's the word?
Impressive lineage.
Yes, impressive lineage. Yeah, she started reading the news on Radio 4 in 1978, and obviously spent many years reading BBC News. She read it on every different possible bulletin they had, apart from the 10 o'clock news. She never read the 10 o'clock news, Mark.
Oh,
that's weird, isn't it?
That is a bit weird. That's a bit sus.
Maybe she just had something she always did at 10 o'clock. Maybe could be, couldn't it? Maybe she just goes to the pub every day at 10 o'clock. Could be it. She stopped regularly reading the news in October 2007, and lots of people claimed it was either ageism or sexism or a combination of ageism and sexism. Obviously, the BBC denied that. The Director General at the time said that it was just because the BBC didn't use traditional newsreaders anymore and that they were all journalists now. That's not true, is it? Was Hugh Edwards a journalist? I don't think he was.
It's interesting, he's your go-to. No. I mean, that was one of the mistakes BBC made with him, was to make him like an anchor at a time when they were deliberately not making anchors. Because obviously Clive Myrie is often abroad reporting as well as doing... Yeah, he was in many ways a one-off, wasn't he, Hugh? Probably not, actually. I think that's the whole problem, is he wasn't a one-off. Yeah. No, yeah, he would be... Yeah, it's interesting, because like the rest of them, you go like, yeah, okay, I get that. But obviously earlier when we were watching the top 10 toys, that was Burke who was broadcasting, wasn't he? Who is a classic newsreader.
Yeah.
But then he did Ethiopia, didn't he?
I don't even know how you can, like... Well, surely once somebody becomes good at reading the news, it doesn't really matter what they studied or
no,
does
it's
it?
believable.
It's obviously good at the reading news.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah.
Anyway, old Chris Evans, not that one, but that one, he swooped in when he was taken over from Wogan. He took over Wogan's morning radio show, and he insisted on having Moira read the news for him on that show. So she got a reprieve. So she started working on that in 2010 and then did that until 2018.
Yeah, lovely. That's a good long slant.
And then she's gone for that classic thing that older presenters do, and she's got a gig on Classic FM.
Oh, lovely. It was either that or she set up her own media relations company, which is the other thing everyone in this show seems to do. Yeah.
But I was reminded of the fact that she turns up in an episode of Extras. It's the episode where Stephen Merchant is doing cocaine in the toilets with Roddy Corbett.
I remember now.
And they get caught, and the bouncer and Roddy Corbett does an amazing job of acting in this, like acting like he's been caught and he's not going to give away who he got it off of. And the bouncer goes, "Did you get this off Moira Stuart?" Like that. And then you think that's it, but then there's a post credit scene where we just see Ricky Gervais signing somebody's autograph, and then in the background you suddenly see Moira being pushed up against a wall and patted down like that. And then she looks at Ricky Gervais and does the throat cut sign.
Yeah, I remember that. That first series of that was really good. I still that Patrick Stewart bit where he talks about his script. I laughed so hard at that. God, but it's too late because I've seen everything. That lives in my head, that scene.
And actually, one of two people to appear in Extras that are featuring on this very episode of tomorrow as well, Mark. We've got another one coming up later.
That's shocking. Yeah, cool.
That's all I know about Moira, Mark. So shall we get on to the next?
We do. Just to make sure that everyone knows, we get moral points for that answer.
Yes, because we're clearly right and they're clearly wrong.
100%. All right, what's next?
And so on to round two, and this time the audience will get first choice, and hopefully both teams are going to get some points. Peter, what on earth is that?
Glad you asked me that. Did you know that the total area covered by greenhouses in this country is more than 5,000 acres? Wow. Many of them are actually just plastic tunnels covered in polythene. But after being exposed to ultraviolet rays, the polythene can disintegrate, that is, in sunlight, and when it gets this bad, then the outlook for your fruit and veg is pretty gloomy. And that's where this device comes in. Now, this section here, this little square pad, is made up of ultraviolet degradable plastic. And at a predetermined exposure, it disintegrates. And what happens then is that this little thing spins up joyfully to greet you. And when it does, you know it's time to replace your polythene.
Well, you were wrong again. And as Christopher Timothy probably already knows, this is used in dairy farming. It's vital for farmers to know when their cows come into season so that they can call the vet and arrange artificial insemination. And that's what this device is for. It's glued, believe it or not, with cow gum. Very strong, but totally harmless. And it's glued on that way round, because you've probably guessed the rest. There's a plastic ring just here, which is designed to break under a heavy weight, so that the arm flies up. Now, be serious, please. The balls, of course, are kept apart, but cows do tend to get a little confused. And when this cow is in season, other cows will set this off. And then the farmer, as you can see, has an instant indication that it's time to call the vet. And if he invests in a pair of binoculars, he can stay in the comfort of his farmhouse.
Yes, how very tasteful. And Judith's not looking too bad either. Well, there is a third explanation, perhaps just as well, and it's in the hands, so to speak, of our next guest, but I'm sure you won't blame me for getting out of the way pretty quick. Yes! It's Rod Hull and
You all right? If you're ballooning, viewers, and you, as you know, to balloon, you pull these handles here, and it makes all the hot air go up into the balloon. Well, the balloon canopy is made out of plastic, and if it gets too hot, it's going to scorch and burn, and you could fall down to earth with a wallop. Yep. So, to prevent you doing that, somewhere here, I shan't be a minute, I've dropped it. It's this very technical device here. I'll just show it to you, viewers. It's very... I'll show it. I'll stop it. I'll show it. It's very... It's this technical device. This little square here, you see, is very sensitive to heat. So what you do, you stick this up in the very top of the balloon, and if the inside of the balloon canopy does get too hot, this releases this little thing here, and the flag falls down. For all the use it is, you might as well stick it on the back of a cow.
Hot air, perhaps? Perhaps not, but I'm glad to see we've got that emu in that basket, and there it shall stay. So, is it a greenhouse monitor, a fashionable cow's fertility aid, or a balloon alarm for flying emus? Audience, it's up to you. Maggie, any thoughts?
I reckon it's an emu alarm.
So you're going off on a complete tangent, but let's find out what the audience in general think, and let's see how the voting goes. Well, the greenhouse monitor looks the favourite at the moment. The greenhouse monitor has got it, 46%.
OK, the greenhouse monitor say the audience. What about our panel, Christopher?
Well, I'm sorry about this, but it's an immediate reaction every time I see a cow. Now, we think it's to do with temperatures and greenhouses.
And again, both teams going for the same one. Will the person who was telling the truth make a move forward?
It was me.
OK, well, that means again, no points each as we finish the second round, but thank you very much, Rod Hull and Emu.
Now, before we get to the main event there, Mark, which I'm very excited to talk about, at the beginning there, Macann hits us with the shocking and surprising fact that causes him to spank his forehead in amazement that the UK has 5,000 acres of greenhouses.
I get an ooh from the audience as well.
Yeah. I just want to ask you, Mark, how many acres of greenhouses do you think the Netherlands has?
Oh, my God, Russ. I'm going to have to make an admission here. I have somehow got through all the days of my life without never really truly understanding how big an acre is, Russ. It's not something that's ever really been of any use or interest to me. So I don't know. I still don't. I don't know. Is a hectare like more 8 acres or something like that? I don't know. So if we had 5,000 in 1987, I assume the Netherlands must have 20,000.
24,000 acres,
Oh,
Mark.
that wasn't a bad guess.
Nearly
There we go.
5 times as many in a
you
country considerably smaller. And actually,
Yeah.
I put a little lovely picture of some of those
Yeah,
greenhouses at night.
gorgeous.
At the bottom there. Looks like microchips or something,
I was
doesn't
going
it?
to say, is that the view from your window?
Yes. Anyway, this is the absolute highlight of the show, Mark, because we have the mighty Rod Hull and Emu turning up. It is coloured slightly by the fact that he talks about falling down to earth with a bump at one point.
Oh, I know. There's a lot about this I really didn't like. and the tragic kind of pre-allusion to how he was going to die was not fun. Because I really remember that really fondly, partly because I think I watched the football match the night he died when he went up onto his roof to sort out his aerial.
Well, I can tell you what fixture it was. It was Inter Milan versus Manchester United in the Champions League. Yeah. On March the 17th, 1999.
St. Patrick's. Oh, I actually don't know. That must have been a lie. It must have been the pub. There's no way we weren't out drinking that night. But yeah, I remember it. I do remember him dying that way. And there was a kind of a tragic, domestic quality to the death. Like there was nothing. It's like he just wanted to watch the second half of the football.
And it's also somebody who is legendary for his pratfalls, and
yes,
it's impossible not to imagine him up there in full safari suit with Emu under one arm and Emu grabbing him by the neck. And I've got this clip of I think one of the greatest moments of physical comedy of all time, where Emu throws him into a chest freezer in a supermarket.
Oh yeah,
which I think is extraordinary. It's the bit I love the most about this is the fact that Emu checks to see if the coast is clear before throwing him in the in the freezer.
Don't ruin it. I would have gone in.
You never know. It might happen. Frozen soup.
The laugh at the kids in the background.
Yeah. The way he commits to that. It seems like it's almost physically impossible what he does, because it's like Emu actually picks him up and throws him into the freezer, but he is Emu. How does he do that? How can you pick yourself up and throw yourself?
The thing that really impressed me kind of watching this back, because I don't love Rod Hull as much as you do. I grew up with him, but I know you adore him, and partly because just like his expertise is like just watching the bit there where he's talking about the clear nonsense of it being like a hot air balloon kind of flame material burning detector thing. Just Emu is constantly doing something.
Yeah.
And he has so much character, and it is very clear to me, and I feel like I've seen interviews with Rod Hull where he discussed this, where like Rod Hull is not consciously thinking of how Emu would act. It's more like his right arm subconsciously knows exactly what to do at every point, which is just like mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But then he was doing it for 20, 30 years, I suppose.
He was doing it, I can tell you.
Go on then. On TV, but when did he start?
Yes. So he's born 13th of August 1935 on the beautiful Isle of Sheppey in Kent, Mark. But moved to Australia in 1956, starting out as a lighting technician on a TV channel in Sydney. But he soon started working on children's TV shows. And there was this children's TV show in Australia called the Super Flying Fun Show. And somebody sent in an emu's egg to the show. And the producer decided to just leave it on a radiator in the background. And eventually some kid wrote in and said, when's that emu's egg going to hatch? So they put together an emu puppet and that was born. And then Rod decided to leg it back to Britain with the emu. Got back to Britain in 1971, but he had a breakout performance at the Royal Variety Show in 1972. And after the show, they always have to, all the talent have to line up, and then the Meet the Royal come along, and it was Queen Mother that year. And apparently, and there's no footage of it, but apparently Emu just grabbed the bouquet out of her hand and tore it to pieces.
Fair play, that's ballsy.
Yeah. And obviously he's carried on doing children's programs. You got Emu's Broadcasting Company, Emu's World, Emu TV, and obviously the one we used to watch, Emu's Pink Windmill Show.
Yes.
With there's somebody at
the door.
Yeah,
somebody at the door. Yeah.
And Grot Bags. Always been a big fan of Grot Bags as well. She was in that. The other big thing, sort of Rod Hull and Emu's second life in the adult world was appearing on chat shows essentially, and the absolute bane of the chat show host. I think Parkinson was probably the first one he was on, where he established this sort of reputation. And obviously, it's a very famous sequence where he absolutely attacks Parky. But he also did. He replicated. He went over. He got invited to America. Became quite famous in America in the mid '70s as well. And he appeared on the Johnny Carson show.
Oh wow!
Being interviewed by Johnny Carson, and he's sitting next to Richard Pryor. This is like 1983. And the producers of the show had specifically told him not to attack Johnny Carson or Richard Pryor. So, of course, he does. He absolutely goes to town on it, especially Johnny Carson. He's got his head pinned to the desk. And yeah, it's great. Yeah, and I tried to find a comprehensive list of all the people that he's attacked. No one seems to have made one. So what I did, I typed in Rod Hull and Emu attack into YouTube to see what ones came up. There's those two. There's one where he attacks Burt Reynolds, which is it's quite a good one.
Wow.
Obviously, there's a famous one where he attacks Snoop Dogg and Mark Lamar on The Word.
Oh God, yeah.
There's Russell Harty, Larry Grayson, Lena Zavaroni and Lulu, Bill Oddie, Dec from Ant and Dec. There's one I want to show you which I'd not seen before, where he attacks two of our favourites, Mark, on Breakfast TV. John Stapleton and Nick Owen.
Nick, no, I can't watch this.
Comfortable. Stop it.
Right. Emu, I was saying what a nice creature you were. Now don't let me down. Don't let me down. Mr. Parkinson sent his regards, by the way. Oh!
You know how to upset somebody, don't you? Yeah. Sorry about that. Yes, carry on.
That's not a subject you want to.
Well, I don't mind.
Into. No,
what have you done?
I've lost all contact with the outside world, actually. Never mind.
Well, I think you'll be glad to say that.
Yeah.
Well, you can read this.
We're going to go for a break.
Page 24. We're going to go for a break now, viewers.
Is that all right, Emu? Can we go for a break? Thank you. Oh, Emu.
Yeah, we've got this tons of things about. Oh, and we forgot to mention he's got his special on.
Oh, that's
Didn't tell you about that.
When's that?
You're going on about that rotten old rodent. His is on next Wednesday.
Really?
At the unearthly hour of 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when everyone's out shopping.
Yes.
No, actually, it's Emu's World.
That's right.
Christmas special. Yes, that's right.
And I'm sure all his fans look forward to that. Yes, thank you. Thank you
very much.
Does he share your enthusiasm for poetry?
No, I just like to give another plug that we're going to sign these books. We'll be signing these books at Alders in Croydon this afternoon,
well
ladies and gentlemen.
Terrific. Yeah, I was going to say been well behaved, but actually, I've got to say, been a bad luck.
That's what we like to see, isn't it?
What are you doing?
I think it sort of remains for me to say what a great show it's been having Rod Hull and Emu here, and thank goodness he accepted the fiver that I gave him early enough to attack and join us again if you can. Bye for now.
Stop it.
Have a good weekend.
Good.
I just love the way that Nick Owen thinks he's got away with it and then ends up over Rod's knee having his arse pierced.
Yeah. John Stapleton, certainly at the beginning, is having the time of his life.
There's another good one with Selena Scott where he just makes her giggle by tickling her feet. There's one where he appears on Bullseye at the very end of an episode of Celebrity Bullseye, Christmas special, and Eric Bristow writes about it in his autobiography. Eric Bristow, it turns out, was not a big fan of Rod Hull, and I think this is quite funny. In Eric Bristow's autobiography, The Crafty Cockney, he says, "I didn't like Rod Hull. He was a pervert who was getting away with something that wasn't right. He used the puppet to feel up women and stick his hand between people's legs. It was out of order. We all had a drink, perhaps one or two more than we should. I went straight up to Hull's face and said, 'Now listen, pal, when you come out on set later and that fucking silly bird of yours, if you come anywhere near me with that fucking thing, I will knock you straight out on telly, whether it's fucking live or not.' When Hull came out on later, he was pulling Jim Bowen all over the place with his stupid emu, but he didn't come anywhere near us, he daren't. If he touched me inappropriately with his hand, I would have sparked him."
Well,
and sure enough, I did watch that bit, and Rod really does make sure he doesn't touch Bristow. He absolutely savages Jim Bowen, though, of course. But I just feel I don't think Rod Hull was a pervert, Mark. I mean, he seems to be an equal opportunities attacker. And
that doesn't mean he's not a pervert, but I do get your point.
And I think Eric Bristow is more of a homophobe, really, and probably didn't like the fact that Emu was quite often going for the people's nethers.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't think I'd be happy with it, to be honest. Like, on the one hand, it's lovely to meet a celebrity, but on the other hand, there's an emu, and I don't know if I'd want that scrunching around me. But I will say, I'm sure you're going to mention it, but like, I liked Rod Hull, but what I loved him was the Lee and Herring sketches.
Oh yes, yeah.
Was you know the Kevin, you know, I am the real Rod Hull, you know, the jelly and stuff like that. It is me, I am real. And then when he finally comes on the episode at the end, because I just thought that was such a great running joke where the fake Rod Hull character would be put in situations where all he had to do is take his arm out of his jacket, he could have saved himself.
Yeah.
But he refused to admit that his fake arm was not a real arm, that it was fake. And so Rod Hull came on, and I always loved him for that, because it was such a stupid, ridiculous thing. But he just seemed like he didn't take himself seriously, which I just do not believe is true of most of the people who were doing this kind of nonsense in the 80s.
Yeah.
Not naming any names, because they may well come up in a future episode, but there are definitely some puppets where you go like, no, you do not have a sense of humour.
Right, and yeah, it's like I said, he said he had a bit of a sad ending. He made loads of money in the 70s and 80s, loads and loads, and he put it all into trying to restore a house that was actually called Restoration House. This massive Elizabethan mansion in Rochester.
Gosh.
He pumped in like. He bought it for like about 300,000, and then pumped up $500,000 in restoring it. And then in 1994, the tax man came knocking on the door, and it turned out his accountant hadn't been paying the tax properly, and so asked for £650,000. So he just had to hand over this newly restored mansion, and he was completely penniless and homeless. And yeah, but luckily he had a friend who knew someone in the National Trust, and so they put him up in a National Trust cottage for free, in an agreement that he would do renovations on it in his spare time. And that was the cottage that
was the house
he fell off the roof of.
Gosh.
Yeah. But he did absolutely savage Jimmy Savile on the 1976 Jim Will Fix It Christmas special. Destroyed half the set. So you know, Emu knew, Mark. Emu knew.
Emu always knew.
Can spot a wrong one when he sees one.
Oh, hang on.
What?
Have we discussed what our guesses were?
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, I can't remember.
No, we haven't.
We both thought it was the cow thing, right?
Yes, as far as the object goes,
Yes.
yeah, Mark. Yeah.
My instinct told me it was a farmer thing. I don't know why.
Yeah,
because they're lazy.
But there's no reason for it to be such a mechanical visual indicator unless you are spotting it from a distance. It's not all like. It seemed overly complicated for something that would just be mounted in a greenhouse, and why would you?
And way too late if you were in a hot air balloon.
Yeah. And I couldn't find, actually. And I did wonder, was this just picked, this item, because it sort of goes swing up? I mean, the audience find it hilarious every time it does it, doesn't it? Yeah. It's slightly sort of a comedy phallic action. So I presume that's what it was mainly
suggestive.
Picked. Yes, yeah. Well, that's what it is. I mean, they've already roared with laughter at the chicken thing going up the chicken.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Obviously, they laugh at. Christopher Timothy does a good bit of rolling his sleeve up when he sees the cow, which I thought was a nice bit of business. No?
It's okay. It was all right. It was a bit try hard. But they even laughed at kind of Judith Hann's handwriting on the icing. But yeah, anything with even a sliver of sexuality seems to have them uproarious with smut-fueled glee.
Yes. But yeah, so it was the farmer's thing. We were right. I couldn't find an exact thing that looked like this, although I did find a product with a similar use. It's like a pressure-sensitive patch that you stick on the cow, and it changes colour if the cow's been mounted for any length of time. It goes red. So yeah, similar use, but less swingy. Probably cheaper to put together.
Well, as you know, on Tomorrow's World, we like to be first to show you things. So here, exactly 7 days before his scheduled appearance, is Father Christmas. Bearing gifts. Now we've got one for the panel here. One for the panel, there you go. They've got one panel. Open it up straight away and have a look at it. You're allowed to do that. Whilst Father Christmas goes over to the audience, because they have a different Christmas present. And basically, you've got until the end of the programme to work out what it is. But have a quick look now.
It looks vaguely like a pen. It's come out of this tube here. But it won't be a pen, of course, will it, Howard?
Well, who knows?
What?
Oh, and one clue to both of you. Both these items are very useful at this time of year. OK, let's go back to the next round of Who's Telling the Truth. And since we've got a red stick down here, here's an old stick. Peter.
Not so much of the... Thank you. Not so much of the old. Now, may I introduce Christine and Carr, the boa constrictor. You know, it's amazing how many people are quite terrified of snakes, and like any other phobia, it can be completely incapacitating. So, with something like snakes, the doctors use what's called exposure therapy. They start by showing the patient pictures, then toys, possibly a dead snake, and finally, a delightful live one like this. But for the penultimate step, before they get to grips with the snake, or vice versa, they use this. Now, it's... Wait a minute. It's padded on the inside so it doesn't damage the snake. And, excuse me, would you just stretch your neck in this direction? Thank you. It can slip very gently but firmly over the snake like that. And so eventually the patient will have complete control over the thing that they're frightened of. And before they know what's hit them, some of their best friends will be snakes.
Now, if you're house-proud, because Peter was wrong, of course, this could be just the thing to find in your Christmas stocking, because it will clean parts of your home never, ever touched by human hands. The back of pipes. You put a bit of cleaning fluid onto here, onto this sponge. You clip it round any pipe up to 2 inches wide, and then you can get all the muck off the back. And when you've done that, you can put on some metal polish and make them really gleam.
Judith, the market, Mrs. Mock. Well, since this is a family show, we thought we'd bring the families on, or at least someone from one of our families. Ta-da!
I've got to say, you're talking a load of waffle. And Peter, I mean, he's the sort of guy who wouldn't buy a second-hand car. If this is something I've got to show you, hello? Right, please don't look so bored, it's me. Right, this is something that fathers, daddies will love, because it is, in fact, a baby bottle holder. No, please. Honestly, my wife's going to have a baby in April, so I've got to get in a little bit of practice, you see. Now, imagine the scene, 3 o'clock in the morning, your little one's bawling its eyes out, crying like you wouldn't believe. So you turn round to the missus and say, don't worry, Maggie, I'll get this one. Right, the advantage of this little gadget, you see, is you can... I'm going to have to get in a lot of practice here. You can hold the baby in one hand. You can also hold the bottle feeder in this hand and feed it, you see. Clever, clever. Now, hang on, there's more, please. You can use this hand to do anything you like with. You can learn to play the piano or have something to eat, you see. And also have something to drink as well.
Well, it looks as though we have Peter's snake holder, a sort of asp clasp, I suppose. Judith thinks it's a pipe cleaner, and Keith's practising which end of the baby goes where. Panel to go first. Christopher?
Yes,
Captain,
we seem to be confused somewhat.
I mean, I don't believe the handle's long enough for the snake business. I didn't believe all that stuff about the snake phobia, and I don't think that's the way you treat these people.
I don't believe it's any of them.
Fine. I think it's the bottle thing.
Well, of course, Captain's choice it is. They're going for the bottle. They don't obviously think much of this so far. So what about the audience, Maggie?
I'm just going to ask the audience to put it to their vote. Can you just press your buttons and let's see which one comes up trumps? Well, the pipe cleaner looks like it's the favourite so far. Yep, they've settled on the pipe cleaner, 53%.
OK, the panel go for the bottle and the audience to the pipe cleaner. That's Judith's explanation. Will the person who was telling the truth please step forward?
It is, in fact, me.
Absolutely tremendous. Christopher Timothy was right. We're off the mark. The panel have 10 points, and thanks a lot. Keith Chegwin, and good luck, mate.
Yeah, it's whiskey.
He's chirpy chap, isn't he, Cheggers? Chirpy,
yes.
Mark.
Yes, I suppose he is chirpy.
I
He
feel
was
like,
chirpy, yes.
Yeah, if you looked up the dictionary definition of chirpy, there'd be a little picture of Cheggers there. I feel like even when he walked into the state, he just walks chirpily.
He does. Although he is off to see his wife, you know, one does look forward to seeing one's wife. So maybe that's nice. Nice to see her in the office.
Yeah. I have to say, Maggie did look like she'd look at him very lovingly, didn't she? Even
She did look. I have to say, it was rather lovely to. She really admired him.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I find him exhausting. She loved him.
Yeah. I mean, he certainly comes in with a lot of energy.
Yeah. That's what he did, though, which I did like. Yeah.
He does. I think, I don't know whether you noticed, Mark, but when just at the end, obviously we discovered that it's the baby bottle holder, which is absolutely ludicrous, Mark, and we don't agree with that whatsoever.
No, we'll discuss that in a minute.
But he takes two big glugs from the baby bottle and then jokes to the camera, "It's whiskey."
Is it a joke?
Which is another part of this programme that's dated.
I know.
Oh, like a fine wine.
It's like a harbinger.
Yeah. Just before we get to the baby bottle thing, Father Christmas pays a visit to the studio, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Comes
he does.
in. And at Christmas presents. Now, I'm not going to give away who it is, but I instantly recognise Father Christmas. I mean, his eyes, even though he wasn't wearing a monocle, his eye, I recognise his eyes immediately.
You know Mr. Peanut when you see him, right?
Yeah, so I thought it was a bit odd that it's not mentioned. Obviously, he then comes back later in the show, and so it's revealed. But I feel like everyone watching would have probably... Well, I suppose TV might not have been as clear. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think he's... The only remarkable thing about Father Christmas turning up is how crap and old he looks. And I don't mean he looks crap because he's old. I just mean like he looks like a bad Father Christmas. But he looks like an old man.
Yeah.
So tell me if it was one of their dads, I wouldn't have been shocked.
But then he gives out the presents, and then old John Aubrey gets handed the present, and he attacks it with a savagery that I've rarely seen anybody attack a Christmas present. He absolutely goes. I'm surprised. I mean, he's lucky that it's not something in any way breakable, because he would definitely have broken it immediately.
It's like he doesn't understand the concept of wrapping paper. but equally, in his defence, it almost looks like it's been wrapped by one of those horrible people who sellotape the wrapping paper to the present. I'd
just love to hand him a pepperami and see what he did, but how he got into that. But yeah, then we move on to the actual next mystery round. It's a stick with it's a stick with a sort of elongated loop at the end,
handled with a kind of a hinged cuff thing.
Yeah. Macann suggests that it's a snake handling device.
Mm-hmm. We've seen snake in the audience. He touches it with his bare hands and everything.
Yes, yeah. He's almost showing off how little he's affected by the fear
arrogance.
Of escape.
That's what it is, Russ. Arrogance.
Yeah, I think I've seen snake handling things, and they're much longer than that, aren't they? I suppose that's why he's saying it's for people to get over their phobia, because otherwise you would just say, why is it not longer than that? Then Judith comes in with what clearly should be the purpose of this, which is cleaning behind pipes. I've got a lot of pipes in my house, Mark.
You do. You're pipe rich, Russ.
I mean, it's a very pipe rich environment.
Yeah.
And something like that would be great for cleaning behind my pipes. I mean, maybe it's a little bit smaller diameter, possibly. But but yeah, that made sense. And then Cheggers comes bounding into the studio in full entertainer mode and tells us that it's a device for feeding a baby one-handed, which looks it looks like you would frequently just drop the bottle with its full weight in the baby's face if you weren't careful, wouldn't you?
Yes, it looks incredibly unsafe and stupid. Arguably the most stupid of all three things that we see.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a shock.
Dismiss that one out of hand instantly.
It was a bit of a shock when that turned out to be the
correct answer.
The correct answer, yeah.
Well, not least because whilst I don't have children myself, I did grow up with lots of them. I'm from a large-ish family, in terms of my extended family, I'm from a large family. And I've babysat, and I've also just witnessed children kind of being fed. And I always get the sense that, I've never seen this in action, or anything similar. And I know you have added oodles of pictures above the notes of all these different things. But the thing is, it always seems to me a bit of a badge of honour for parents to be able to feed their child one-handed and kind of hold the bottle in a way that, like in the crook of their, between their neck and their shoulder, or wherever. Like it's a kind of it's a badge of experience and wisdom that you can feed a child and have your other hand free. So the only person I can imagine this for is a one-handed parent. That's it. It was, whereas instantly when I saw the pipe thing, I was thinking actually, do you know what? Who wouldn't want one of those?
Yeah, yeah, and actually you can get things that look a bit like that, which are pipe cleaners.
For pipes?
Yes, yeah. But the only difference is they tend to have bristles on them. So there's
as opposed to a
better
foam,
cleaning. Yeah, better cleaning
yeah.
action. Yeah, as you said, I did post a couple of one-handed feeding devices at the bottom there. There's one that kind of hooks over your shoulder and it sort of gives you almost like a false boob, doesn't it? Like
It does, yeah.
And you can just wedge the bottle into it.
Yeah.
Like that.
And it looks like Chris Hoy, the famous cyclist, is trying to remove a coin from his child's ear there.
Yes, yeah. And then the second one is called Mother's Third Arm.
This is creepy as all F, as they say, yeah.
I mean, it's almost like Emu himself is feeding the child. I found a lot of sort of stuff pointing to the Mother's Third Arm website, but the Mother's Third Arm website doesn't exist anymore. So I think they went bust in like 2019, almost like people didn't want the Mother's Third Arm because of how
Another
weird it
victim
looks.
of COVID, eh, Russ?
Yes, yeah. All the mothers could stay at home and use their real arms to feed their children, and
yeah,
they
but
never recovered from it.
The children, with the exception of one child, all the children in that advertisement are all old enough to hold their own bottles. In fact, the arm is an impediment to them drinking. And I think the one child who is of an age where it might be useful, yeah, fair enough. I get that. But then it just looks like the mother's neglecting her. Sorry, go ahead.
But Chegwin, Mark, I thought I'd do a little bit of Chegwin chat.
Yep.
We did cover him very slightly when I discussed Maggie, because obviously
Yes,
they were almost intrinsically linked.
They were the power couple of the 80s, right?
Yes, and obviously they
Showbiz
had that
power couple.
That song with Brown Sauce with Noel Edmonds.
Oh my God,
remember that? That was good, wasn't
it? I didn't, but now I do again.
So he was born January 1957 in Liverpool. Obviously, famously the younger brother of DJ Janice Long.
Yes.
Now this is the fact. This is the fact of the absolute fact of the whole episode, Mark.
I'm leaning in.
Lean in, Mark.
Hang on. Should we add another log to the fire so we can just get nice and toasty for this one?
Yeah. So when he was a kid, he was entering a few different talent competitions, and in one of them he was spotted by June Collins. And June Collins, Mark, is the mother of Sir Phil Collins, as I like to call him. Still not got that knighthood yet, but anytime soon, I'm sure.
He does in your heart.
Yeah, and she thought he was a talented little lad, and she ran a stage school in London. So she invited Cheggers down to audition for a show called MAME, which M-A-M-E, or I don't know, MAME, I don't know what that means. Well, it's not MAME as in injure yourself, is it? MAME, don't know. But anyway, it had Ginger Rogers in it, so it was a big thing. But Cheggers got the part, but then there was some sort of licensing rule for children that it meant he couldn't go in it. So he attended the stage school instead, and this is the fact, Mark. Keith Chegwin sang the first song ever written by Phil Collins in a drama production at that stage school. Yeah.
Okay, that's impressive, Russ. I'm mostly saying wow because I know how impressive it is to you.
That
is kind of impressive.
That is some decent pub trivia, that isn't it?
That is very
who
good.
sang the first song written by Phil
Pub
Collins?
Trivia, Russ. That's a first date kind of fact, right?
Yeah, and if the prospective partner immediately flashes back, oh, Keith Chegwin.
Is that Lily's dad?
Keith Chegwin, everyone knows that. I mean,
that's true.
Absolute
marriage
keeper.
bells, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so obviously Cheggers actually had a very good child acting career off the back of this stage school. I think I remember. Were you ever shown Macbeth at school? The Roman Polanski film.
We were,
yeah. And I remember Cheggers popping up in that in a role. It's probably his most prestigious role.
Never made any sense, did it? But now you know why.
Yes, yeah. He's in a lot of adverts in the 70s for 70s type products: Pepsi, Cream Eggs, Ready Brek, Toffo, and Tizer. And then obviously, he stopped acting once he grew up a bit and got into presenting, where he really shone. Swap Shop, Cheggers Plays Pop, Saturday Superstore. In the 90s, he did The Big Breakfast, famously, bothering people in the street and on the doorstep. He claims that throughout his career, nobody ever wrote a single word of script for him. It was all pure Cheggers off the cuff.
Off the noggin?
Yeah, apparently.
All right.
Yeah. But yes, as we alluded to already, he actually was secretly an absolute bit of a booze hound. But he went on Richard and Judy and told them about it in 1992, and that's the point at which he quit drinking. But then he released an autobiography in 1995. Now this is weird, Mark. So it's an autobiography where he discusses his career and, you know, the effects of alcoholism. And he decided to call that book Shaken But Not Stirred, My Story.
Okay.
Why would you? Why? Why would you choose like a really famous James Bond quote and then very much slightly change it and then
as opposed to like Cheggers drinks pop?
Well, exactly.
Cheggers avoids pop or whatever. Yeah,
I'm glad you said. I'm glad you said that.
Oh,
because,
sorry.
because I put exactly. Surely Cheggers drinks pop is the obvious title.
Yeah. It's just it's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
That's very weird.
But he does claim. He said I saw a little interview with him. And it was quite interesting. He said, Chegwin insists that he has no dark side. I know it sounds cliched, but I enjoy life, he said. Even when he was a drinker, he says that he was a happy alcoholic. And then the journalist says, I'd been told he wouldn't discuss his boozing, but there's no stopping him. I hold my hands up. It's all true what the papers said. I was found in a hedge and I did take my clothes off and moon on a snooker table. I've never said this before, but while at the time it was appalling, looking back, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Now I appreciate the small things in life. So there you go. Chirpy again. Yeah, still chirpy. But yes, he ended up leaving Maggie in... he married her in 1982, and then he left her in 1993. He got divorced.
He left her?
Yes, because he went off with the nanny. Classic storyteller's oldest time.
Oh,
But
it's a skeevy story, isn't it?
We're behind Maggie all the way, aren't we? On this podcast, but
we're in our corner. No two ways about it.
But to the credit of the nanny Maria, he does say that she really helped with the giving up booze thing, because when he was travelling around the country for the big breakfast, she would phone ahead to the hotels and tell them to empty the minibar before he got there.
That's very sweet, but it does sound like she was nannying him, right?
Yeah. And the child, which is within Maggie in this episode, turned out to be Rose Chegwin, who these days is an account director for the global software company BMC. And that is a photograph of her.
I assume that's her there, yeah.
Photograph of her at the bottom there. You can see the
does
family
look like
resemblance.
her mum.
She's got Maggie's... I think she's got Maggie's face, but in the shape of Chegwin's head. That's what I'm saying.
That's fair. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
She also has Maggie's parting.
Yeah, but her sleeves are matching the body.
They are matching her body, Russ.
That's a shame.
Everything runs in the family, right? Then again, she did have a dad, so...
Yeah. So, yeah, shall we get nice and Christmassy?
Let's do it.
This is when Christmas really starts, Mark.
This is the real Father Christmas of this episode.
OK, a further diversion now as we go into our film round. Panel, the first film is going to be for you. You've got up to 10 points to win if you can get close to what is happening and what is being talked about here. Bob Symes is at home, preparing for Christmas in his own inimitable way.
The trouble with most Christmas presents is that as soon as they're unwrapped, they lose their surprise. But I like to give things that keep their mystery after they're out of the box. Take this chap, for instance. It's basically cylindrical. It's got two knobs at one end and a honed, sharpened edge at the other end. It's hinged, and it has an adjustable stop up here. And it does its job remarkably quickly.
Yes, and every household needs one. But what is it?
I don't know.
I thought about opening a bottle, but I mean...
It'd be a flipping big bottle, wouldn't it, with a neck like that?
I want to chomp into something with it.
But
I don't know what.
You don't want to put it over a soda side.
It's certainly connected. Is it connected with food? Can we say
food?
That?
Yes, I think
it's connected with something we intake.
And it's a chopping
thing
of some sort of food.
Yeah, opening.
Very interesting. Let's find out.
I could have given you a clue. I'm giving it to a keen cook. It's the quick way of turning cauliflower into cauliflower florets.
Tremendous. That piece of discussion obviously did you well. I'm going to give you 8 out of 10 because you didn't get it quite right. So that takes the panel score to 18 points. And on to the audience. It's your turn now. A film for you. The same rules apply. Have a look at this. What is going on? Bob Symes.
I'm giving another friend of mine one of these. Now, inside this plastic container, there are 3 little sets of brushes on wheels which rotate, and you fill it with fluid up to this level. And it locks. And without one of these, he could be in for a very messy job.
Intriguing, that one. I had to play with that myself. Maggie, any ideas up there?
Well, let's find out what we all think. Have you any thoughts at all, sir?
Perhaps a scrambling egg, or...
Scrambling eggs. You cook yourself, are you, sir?
No, I wouldn't like to describe myself as that.
I see. What do you reckon?
I've no idea.
You've got absolutely no idea. I'm going to carry on till I get the right answer.
I've no idea.
No idea? Anybody got any ideas? You've got a thought, sir?
I would say, just a guess, it looks like a bicycle chain cleaner.
A bicycle chain cleaner? Yeah. Let's find out.
Well, I was curious how this one worked, so I tried it myself.
You must be the inventor. How did he know that? That's quite amazing. Well done. Well, there's only 10 points to give. I would give you more if I could, but 10 points to the audience.
Well, it's absolutely delightful to see Bob Symes, Mark. The absolute spirit of Christmas, as far as I'm concerned.
Spirit of Christmas, I like that. Yes, it is. Yes, he is, rather, isn't he? Yeah.
Absolutely incredibly difficult round, though, I would say.
Bloody tough.
Yeah. Neither of these things immediately leapt out to me what they were. Obviously, the first thing you've got the device for turning cauliflower into cauliflower florets, which actually I thought was quite ingenious. I thought it also looked a bit like, when he turns it on the side, looks a bit like Emu itself. But
you're obsessed, Russ. You're obsessed.
But the celebrity guests don't actually get that's what it is for.
No, they don't.
Howard gives them an absolutely shocking great 8 out of 10 points there for something for chopping food.
The fix is in, Russ. Yeah, and he basically completes their sentence for them. No, it's not, because like chopping food doesn't. It is so specific and niche that no, I'm sorry, I just do not accept Howard's. Let's call it generosity. Normally, I'm the desperately cynical one of the two of us, but I think in this round, Russ, I think you might be streaks. I think you might have spotted something that I didn't. But that from Howard is utter tosh.
Yeah. But and I was disappointed.
Also, I have to say, I'm less impressed with the invention than you are,
really?
By the way. Because I suppose, I have never ever struggled to remove florets from a broccoli or a cauliflower. And when I looked at it, my instinct was like, no one needs that. That does not exist anymore. That is ridiculous.
Well, you are right. That specific thing doesn't exist anymore. The closest I could find was the. I got a picture of it at the bottom. It's called the Chegwin stalk chop. Seems to be the market leading thing for getting florets.
Leading.
Yeah, for getting florets off. It's a much more primitive device, though. It's kind of like a spatula with 2 blades, and they kind of just you have to prise off the florets one at a time. Whereas Bob's one does the whole cauliflower in one motion.
Though you are right, Bob's one is, should we say, slightly more medieval. It does look like something a giant moil would bring to a brisk, you know. It's definitely a bit more intimidating than that one.
I mean, my 2 guesses were something for circumcisions or something for getting the foil for champagne bottles. That was my two possible guesses.
Mine was I was kind of imagining like plumbing copper, maybe because it was in my mind, but like the idea of like being able to clamp it onto the side halfway up a pipe, chomp in to create the cutaway so that you could put in a second pipe so that it met at a T-junction.
But
which obviously it isn't.
No. And then we move on to the next one, the audience's mystery item. And once again, I had no idea. I thought it was maybe something for shelling nuts or maybe salting nuts or something Christmas.
I thought something
Christmassy.
to do with like an archaic hobby that isn't really a thing anymore, but might be for Bob Syme's generation. I'm thinking like, oh, maybe it's a special coin cleaner.
Yes, yeah. And then, so they asked the audience, and I'm going to say, Mark, this is a big fix. I don't know. So previously, Maggie has asked one or two audience members
next to each other, in and around each other.
Yeah. On this one, she persevered. She says, I'm going to keep going until I get the right answer.
Yes.
And then seemingly out of magic, I think the fourth person she asked. Well, first of all, one bloke she asked says it's for scrambling eggs, which is an insane thing to think. How would you even get the eggs in that thing? Brilliant answer. Made me laugh.
But I have to say, she does her best to not say, are you a effing idiot? Out, you're barred from London. Leave.
But then, so the fourth person she hits upon, seemingly at random, who I'm not even sure put his hand up.
No, she reaches out because she said, I think you said you think you might have a suggestion. It's almost like, oh, he caught my eye.
Yeah. And this man, I don't know, Mark, there's something about his air. He gives off the air of someone who works in TV studio. Like,
he's very comfortable.
He's very comfortable in a TV
right?
studio.
Yeah.
He looks like he's the sort of man that would like maybe hold the sound boom or operate a camera or, do the electrics or, some sort of TV crew work. He just gives off those vibes massively. And lo and behold, he knows exactly, and he keeps saying, "Oh, it's just a guess. It's just a guess."
He does. He's at the end, and the weird thing is, correct me if I'm wrong. It's almost worth. Can we rewatch it again? I'm gonna ask you to do something we've never done before, Russ. Can we spool back and just rewatch it again? I want to check something. Zoom in and enhance. Here we go. Yeah, that's fine. It's the end bit I want to see. Yeah. Okay. So she's leaning in. Here we go. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Yeah. All right, that's interesting.
What were you trying to watch? What were you trying to spot there, Marco?
We hear him saying it's just a guess, almost in a way that sounded like he was separately mic'd up. But I don't think he is. But I do think he looks a little embarrassed and ashamed at the end. Guilty? Would that be a word? And then now, if we reach back to Howard, I wrote down some notes here. Yes, Howard says when the panel, I think, are up. No, when he's passing it out to the audience, and he talks about how. I feel like this is a conspiracy theorist here. I need like one of those kind of murder boards or whatever they're called. When he says when he's handing over to Maggie, he talks about like, I think this is really tough. I had to play with this earlier. He said that.
Yeah.
He didn't say that about anything else that we've seen here.
Oh yeah.
This is in a film segment. This is in Bob Syme's house. So how did he play with it earlier, Russ? So I'd suggest either that guy's a plant because he's a member of the crew, or they gave someone somebody had to play with it and was allowed to guess, or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Like it suspects to me that something happened, and then to add another layer, that might indicate why he gave the panel 8 because he knew the audience were going to get 10.
Yeah.
It's a shame because I really loved the audience reaction to the reveal that it was a bite because they are absolutely chuffed to bits.
Well, hopefully Howard is listening over his Christmas dinner and
up there in the Rockies.
Get in touch, Howard, and tell us.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you remember.
I think the statute of limitations has passed there, so we can be open and honest about this. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Tomorrow's World Truth and Reconciliation Committee is available to gather at short notice.
It's only 37 years ago.
Yeah. I'm sure it's fresh in his memory.
Well, the guilt has been nagging at him ever since, Mark.
18 to the panel, 10 to the audience as we go into the final round of Who's Telling the Truth. And once again, I'm going to point a finger at Peter.
Well, now, for this one, I need a victim. I mean, a patient. So, totally at random, Howard, come over here. Now,
yes.
if you've ever been admitted to hospital, you'll know the doctors use some pretty basic techniques. For instance, to test the motor function of the nervous system, just push my hand there, will you?
It's not going to hurt, is it?
No. Very good. Now, squeeze those fingers. There's nothing wrong with you. Now, all these are pretty unscientific, I'm sure you'll agree, but this device here is an attempt to improve that grip test. Now, if you hold that between your thumb and first finger like that, it's not as easy as it looks. And these weights here are specially rated for a normal adult. And although it's quite difficult, you've got to keep it very steady there. That's excellent. So this new device, invented by a neurologist, should be a handy ready reckoner for hospital doctors assessing the nervous system.
Do you want it back?
Steady. I think I should take a rest if I was you.
Thank you very much.
Totally unscientific. Like all sports, golf has got plenty of armchair professionals, as well as endless gadgets to improve your game. They tell me that the secret of good golf is your stance. Feet apart, weight evenly distributed between each foot, knees slightly bent, arms straight, head still, and eyes fixed on the ball. And this is the latest device to help practice that last stage. You hold it between your teeth at a slight angle, with the leg weights just in view. And the idea is to keep these as still as possible while you practice your swing.
And so to our final guest, a man well ahead of his time by about 2 centuries. He's never been phased, but has a stunning phaser. From the far reaches of the Andromeda Galaxy, our coordinates are fixed. So please beam him in. From Star Trek, George Takei, alias Lieutenant Sulu.
Live long and prosper. In the 23rd century, we call this a museum piece. But in the 1980s, it's one of the very latest tools in mineral prospecting, a divining rod. Mining companies are fairly quiet when they hire psychics to back up their scientists, but it is done. Now, this particular device is a divining rod for heavy metals like lead, gold, iridium, and osmium, and it twitches when it's passed over a lump of lead like this. Perhaps it's on the wrong wavelength. In my time, we call it a spectroceptor, but to you, it's a heavy metal divining rod.
Yes, live long and prosper, Sulu. So, it's either a device for nervous TV presenters to check jittery fingers. Judith thought she was getting a teeth into a golfing aid. What a swing. And Lieutenant Sulu doing a little prospecting with it on the planet Pyrites. Audience, you're 8 points behind. A bit of catching up to do, Maggie.
Well, we've done very well so far, but what do you reckon that is?
Oh, well, it's got to be I've forgotten what they are now.
He's right on the ball. Well, let's find out what it is. Press your buttons. Yes, the metal diviner seems to be favourite so far. Oh, it's dropped back now. The finger check. Ooh. Yes, it's the metal diviner by a natch.
38%, just about, for the metal diviner. Panel, it's up to you. What do you think, Christopher?
Well, this is unified disagreement again. So I think it's the metal diviner, but we're torn between that and the finger thing. And having said all that, it now convinces me that it's got to be the golfing thing.
No,
you think that's
no,
wrong,
no, we're not going for the golfing thing.
Yeah, but you're...
No, I mean,
wait a minute.
It would have a proper mouthpiece if it was the golfing thing. She wouldn't have to have that black thing in her teeth like that. It would actually...
Right, the metal diviner as...
Really?
Yeah, with the audience.
Trekkies all the way. Both teams gone for the metal divining. OK, would the person who is telling the truth take a step forward? Sorry. Judith with the bit between her teeth once again, but again, no points for either the panel or the audience. So the results, the scores remain the same at 18 to the panel, 10 to the audience, and thank you very much, George Takei.
I'm confounded in this piece, Mark, by how absolutely animated a scientist from Imperial College is that it's not a golf training device, when one of the other options is a psychic metal diviner.
Which is what they plump for in the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
I don't
surely
know.
Surely, as a man of science, he should be absolutely strongly poo-pooing any sort of psychic-powered device that comes
Unless
on the
he just
program.
secretly knows that kind of, the oil industry does hire diviners, so and is ashamed to admit it, or he's, sworn to secrecy.
Yeah, I mean, I was with you though. It was transparently obvious that it was the golf thing, clearly.
Yes,
because as you say, golfers will buy any old nonsense if it.
Yes,
to improve their game.
Correct. No sport or entertainment has been more successfully designed to efficiently and effectively remove money from people's wallets than golf. And especially when it comes to improving swing, which seems to be kind of some weird snake oil salesman's new playground for, idiots. No, not idiots. That's unfair. But absolutely. Do you know what? The object is stupid, but the second she turned out with the golf buggy, I remember thinking it's golf. It's 100% golf. Absolutely 100%. That's golf.
There's actually, I found a website called Golf Swing Systems, which sells 356 different devices for training.
So they all must work then,
and practicing your swing.
Yeah.
From the lowliest sort of rubber practice tees at £2.50 to the Well Putt Big Tilt XL Pro Max for sort of like putting green, I think, but it's like, I don't know, movable or something. But that'll cost you £19,950, Mark.
Amazing, right?
Yeah. You'd have to be a really evil CEO to have that in your office, wouldn't you? They were like they always do in films, as I mentioned before. But the favourite thing I spotted on that website, I've got a picture of it down the bottom there, Mark. Have you seen it?
I have now.
The golf swing shirt. That's good, isn't it? It's like a
straight jacket.
It's a vest where you have to force both your arms through a single hole at the front, as if you're almost like a weird, funny little straight jacket thing.
Yeah, it's like what you wear on Mars if you have an angry Quato.
That'll cost you a mere £60, Mark.
Jeez Louise.
That's not the highlight of this, of course, is my second favourite guest of the episode, Mr. George Takei. And not George Takei, as William Shatner always insisted on calling him, possibly just to annoy him. But yeah, no, it's nice to see him. I always wonder how many times the various members of the Enterprise crew have appeared on TV programmes and their entrance has involved them beaming into the studio. It's got to be pretty much every time, isn't it? I mean, if you make a TV program, right, you've got to beam them in, haven't you?
Some of these actors haven't opened a door in years.
Yeah, it's quite a big star. I think you initially thought that it was a pre-recorded segment because having a big star like this turning up tomorrow as well.
Yeah, that and the special effects of having it being digital, which I appreciate, is not complicated, but it's one of those things where it just felt like the audience reaction felt slightly muted. His response to it felt kind of slightly muted. He doesn't interact with anyone when he's doing his demonstration. It just felt like, that was recorded 2 days ago. He's doing pantomime in Croydon because, it's good money and it's fun to, live in London for Christmas. I was genuinely surprised. Actually, it's one of those things where, like, it was only second time round watching did I realise, he's actually there. I just assumed he wasn't there, and it was only second time around. No, there he is. He's next to them.
Yeah,
I think it was when I saw like Macann kind of reaches out and touches his shoulder off shot. I was like, oh god, somebody interacted with him. And then there's a wide shot. I was like, oh no, he's in the studio.
Yeah,
very odd. Because I'm not wrong. Like, it has the vibe of something that's pre-recorded, right?
Yes, no, it did. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it's awkward. Yeah. There's an awkwardness to it.
But one thing I would want to point out, Mark, is that either Howard or whoever wrote Howard's introduction to George coming on stage there.
Oh yeah. I know you have problems with this. Go on.
Clearly not a Star Trek fan, because Howard says, he says he's beaming in from the far reaches of the Andromeda Galaxy, and more famously, all of Star Trek. Even the bits where they go a long way away, like Star Trek Voyager, that's still all set within the Milky Way, Mark. They never go to Andromeda Galaxy, Mark. That's far too far away. Not even for the Starship Enterprise, that's too far away.
Well, we know that not only is the scriptwriter not a Trekkie fan, not a Star Trek fan, but neither is Howard because he didn't correct it.
I know that's a real blot against Howard's copybook there, Mark.
Yep.
I think it's interesting that Sulu comes on doing the Vulcan "Live Long and Prosper" sign as well.
Yep.
I guess you might as well. I don't think it's just a visual shorthand, isn't it? Even though it doesn't really make sense.
I think it is. Yeah.
It's not like he's adopted by everyone on the crew.
I don't suppose he cares anymore. Yeah, go on then. What do you want me to? Yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, you're beaming in. Oh, wow. Yeah, I've not done that yet. Go on then. I'm guessing that's not a good. That's not my go-to George Takei impression.
He's got a great. Actually, I do think George Takei's got a great voice. He's got those really smooth, rich tones, doesn't he?
And I, for what it's worth, his kind of politics the last few years have been hugely impressive. I think.
Oh yes, yeah. He's definitely a great bunch of lads.
A great bunch of lads. GBOL, right?
Yes, yeah. He's born in 1937 in Los Angeles.
Gosh.
Spent World War II in one of those Japanese internment camps they had over there. But do you know who he's named after? You would never guess who he's named after, Mark.
The George bit, I assume.
Yeah.
King George?
Yep, King George VI.
What?
He's named after because he was coronated shortly after Takei was born. Yeah, so that's who he's named after. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, he studied theatre in Berkeley and went straight into Hollywood doing stuff. I guess if it's one of those things where back then, if they needed a Japanese guy, let's get George in. So he dubbed a few of the Godzilla films. He starred in films alongside Frank Sinatra, Richard Burton, Alec Guinness, Jerry Lewis, John Wayne, James Caan, Cary Grant. So he's in lots of big films. And then obviously you got the Star Trek gig in 1965. I don't think I need to go into that.
I don't think you do.
I'm sure most of our listeners know about all of that. Got a feeling. I was very interested in his. Obviously, he's famously had a long-running feud with Shatner. I've always been something of a Shatner apologist. I know he has quite a big ego, but I think he probably, deserves to have a big ego. And also, I don't think Takei's ego is particularly,
small.
I think it's probably Shatner's is the size of a planet, whereas Takei's is the size of a moon, sort of thing.
But by any other context, George Takei would have the most annoyingly large ego in that cast. And then they hired William Shatner, yeah.
What I think that the person that should have a problem, and I don't know whether he does, with William Shatner, is Walter Koenig, the bloke who played Chekhov, right? Because I found this press conference for the release of Star Trek V, and Shatner's there, and he introduces his fellow actors, right? And see if you can spot what he does differently when he gets to Chekhov.
Thank you. You do a great Charlie Bluedorn. He does have an English accent, doesn't he? Yeah. Good morning. Thank you all for coming. Behind me, you can barely make out my colleagues, and let me not waste an instant and introduce them. Would you open this curtain? There you go. The cast of Star Trek. George Takei.
Well, hello. Good to be here.
Nichelle Nichols.
My pleasure, Admiral, Captain.
And the gentleman who plays Chekhov.
Walter Koenig. Здравствуйте, товарищи, как путеваете?
He doesn't even know his name. He just calls him the gentleman who plays Chekhov.
Oh my god, that's painful to watch. I feel like, because he's Jimmy Pardo's father-in-law?
Yes.
And I feel like Jimmy Pardo's definitely alluded to, everyone on that show just straight up hating Shatner. But I think you get the impression that, everyone just kind of goes along with it, except for Takei, who basically said, nah, sod this, I'm not putting up with this. Yeah.
But, as you say, Takei, one of the good guys, prominent gay rights activist. I didn't realise that the reason that he initially, because he came out in 2005 in a magazine article, and the reason he did is because Governor Schwarzenegger at the time of California vetoed same-sex marriage laws, and it annoyed Takei so much that he came out and And ever since then, he's been absolutely, doing loads of gay rights activism. Him and his long-term partner, Brad Altman, they got married in 2008 once they finally did bring in the same-sex marriage laws. And they were the first couple to apply for a same-sex marriage licence in West Hollywood out of everyone.
That's nice.
So that's, yeah. But we've also got an asteroid named after him. And one of the possible reasons why he is available for this Tomorrow's World studio is that he's a self-proclaimed avid Anglophile. He loves Britain. I've got a little quote from him on his personal website. He says, "Those who know me know that I am an incontrovertible Anglophile, or more broadly, a Britannophile, which includes my affection for Scotland and Wales as well. I love things British. My car is British. My wardrobe, to a good extent, is British. I even love the food in London. I think British food has shaken its prevailing perception as indigestible and become quite wonderful. I try to get to Britain for holidays as often as I can. I love things British."
Oh, well,
so there you go. They probably had Takei battering down the studio doors at every opportunity.
I was about to say, they don't have to beat him over the stick at the stage door. So they might as well let him in because he looked cold. That's fair play to him.
Yeah, yeah. Also, the Star Trek 4 was released on VHS in November 1987, so he might have been over promoting that as well.
And then just stuck around for another 6
weeks.
Yeah,
just stuck around, yeah.
Fair play, I don't mind. I've got no problem with that. Maybe he's just over for Christmas. I think Britain does Christmas well. We can all be proud of that.
Yeah. Last bit, Mark.
Last bit, Russ.
The turkey sandwiches are being brought out.
Both teams can still win because we haven't decided about those Christmas presents yet, and that's what we're going to do right now. Both teams have had long enough to decide. Panel, what do you make of your red stick?
Leslie will demonstrate.
I don't know whether the audience can see, but there's a metal end to it there with a V shape in it and a ledge going underneath. And underneath that is a magnet. And if I put my earring underneath it, I can tell that it's a magnet. And what it is, it's for if you've got drawing pins up on a board up there, the drawing pin slots in under there and you pull it off. We think it's a brilliant invention, don't we, John?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, very, very good.
Well. Very interesting idea. There's only one way to find out, and that's to invite Father Christmas back on to tell us. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Moore.
Yes, of course, you're absolutely right. Precisely what it is the thing for pinning up things in inaccessible places, magnet to the top there, stick it in the wall there, and then we remove it, and there you are. Because
brilliant.
Just take it down a bit.
Great. 10 points, that's the maximum you can get. Maggie, what do you think about yours?
Well, we got varying theories in the audience. 50% of them worked out that this part of it was a cardboard tube. Now, they're right about that bit, so I think we deserve 5 marks for that. But what about the rest of it?
I reckon you run it along water pipes to find the frozen parts in winter.
Right. How about you, sir?
Christmas tree lights. Faulty bulbs in the Christmas tree lights.
Faulty bulbs in the Christmas tree lights.
Well, great idea. Some interesting ideas from the audience. Are they right, Patrick?
They are indeed. It is a voltage detector detecting the east side voltage 50. It's a voltage detector. If you don't make electrical contact, so it's perfectly safe. For example, here's a live wire, like that, and you can see it's glowing red. You can see it quite clearly. Still live. All that's live. Now, where's the faulty one? 41 is there. It's gone out. And so that is the faulty bulb, and you can replace it quite easily. Isn't it simple?
And there we are. It's now shining. 10 points to the audience. And a special thanks to Patrick Moore for coming in. Thank you very much.
Happy Christmas.
And so to our final score. The audience have amassed a marvellous 20 points, but the panel have 28 points and are this year's quiz show winners. So congratulations to the panel, commiserations to the audience, and thanks to all our special guests, and of course the panel, Professor Leslie Rees, Professor John Albury, and Captain Christopher Timothy, and of course the audience.
And of course, a very, very big thank you to our audience. They've been absolutely tremendous tonight. And that is about it from Tomorrow's World for this year. We will be back in the new year, by which time, hopefully, some kind of order will have been restored. So until then, have yourselves a very, very good Christmas. Take care. Good night. See you soon.
Well, I must say, I am shocked to discover that Father Christmas was none other than Sir Patrick Moore. Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, what an unveiling.
And with no tips about Super Mario Brothers on the NES at all. It disgusted Russ.
He had pretty rosy cheeks, didn't he? Do you think those cheeks were...
I think they were natural,
they pure more?
Self-medicating.
Do they pop a little bit of rouge on there to give him more for?
Well, I kind of assume maybe him and Cheggers were sharing that bottle afterwards.
Oh yeah, that's probably it, isn't it? Yeah. This is a bit of a weird one because we're never really we're not given close-ups of these devices at any point. So it's up. We've just gone left it to the contestants and the audience to tell us what they are without us really being able to guess at home, aren't we, really?
Yeah. No, we can't play along with this one.
No.
They only really start showing it to you when they're explaining what they think it is. And, of course, in both cases, they happen to be 100% correct.
Yes, yeah. The first one I thought was a bit more impressive because it weirdly looked Christmassy while also having a decent Christmas use. If you see what I mean.
The first one or the second one? The first one.
Yeah, it looked like it was like a red cane, which is kind of Christmassy.
It almost looked like a giant pencil.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
But yeah, you can get things for. You can get both of these actually in some way or another. You can't get a thing that looks like the long red stick. You can get a thing that looks like a sausage tongue, which is kind of used for removing drawing pins. There wasn't one for putting them back in again, though. The good thing about this one was it looked like you could do both removal and insertion.
That's what I quite liked about it, yeah.
Yeah.
I also really enjoyed Leslie's use of the scientific method to work out what it was, using her jewellery.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which clearly are not precious metals because they stick to the end.
It must be cheap jewellery if it's...
Yeah.
Another person in the audience gets their thing right, which turns out to be a voltage tester for Christmas tree lights. But he doesn't look like a plant to me. He looks
No. He's a normal, regular person.
Yeah. He's got
and his glee at the... Because as I was watching this, I was thinking it's like... as you know, Russ, I'm a regular attendee at a local football team. As I was watching that, and there was something about the way, as the program went on, the audience became a bit more rabid, and the jeers and the boos started kind of eking their way in as they were they were unhappy with the fact that the panel was winning numbers and stuff like that. And right at the end, they not only is there just a joyful, like a real genuine kind of communal cheer for their side when he correctly guessed that is this kind of item for testing. Christmas tree lights, and by God, he looks like he will dine out in that story for years to come.
Yeah.
Oh, every Christmas. Oh, Dad's going to tell the story again, isn't he? It's like, is Tomorrow's World on? Oh my God, did I tell you? Yes, Dad. Yeah. Like, and of course you love it, right? Brilliant.
Yeah. Every Christmas he buys everybody he knows a Christmas tree light tester, just so he can tell the story.
Oh, this? Oh, you don't know what this is? Because I do know what this is. But it was more like I just really enjoyed the boos at the end when the panel won, and it just reminded me, like, even going to the football, and I'm going tomorrow night. It's like there's a lot of ironic cheering in football. There's not that real communal. When do you get to really, really solidly boo? You boo the referee, but actually you're quite angry. The joyful, gleeful, ironic boo is so underused. And it's just really fun to hear the audience kind of boo in a kind of a comedic way.
Rarely happens in TV.
No, it
really
really doesn't.
TV studio.
Yeah. I think there's a real element of competition at the end, which I absolutely respect wholeheartedly.
Yeah, and then obviously episode ends. Everyone signs off. Maggie wishes us a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and then
she does indeed.
And then some absolute classic Rod Hull and Emu action again to see us out as he attacks both Howard and Dr. Reese.
Yes.
He actually chases her around the studio.
Dame Reese. And I was thinking that there's a woman who will eventually get like a damehood from the Queen, and yet arguably less non-celebrities have been attacked by Rod Hull. What a claim that is.
Yeah. Really
there
goes
it is.
for
Chapeau.
And that is it, I believe,
Christmas.
Mark.
Yeah.
That's Christmas.
I
So
know
there
we
it
can do the
was.
context.
Merry Christmas.
Yes, I think. Do you know what? Unfortunately, I think this is a non-auditable episode. We can go through the motions, Russ. We can tick what we have, but we'll discuss that in a minute because let's crunch the numbers, Russ.
Yeah.
Maybe over the sound of the fire in the background. Is that possible, Russ? Is that something you can do?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's
possible.
find out. The top 10 toys at the beginning was brilliant because that genuinely, I really felt like I remember that Christmas. And it also reminded me how, when I was growing up, and I know I've discussed this with you before, and I know it's something that you know, but in Ireland, the most popular television programme of the year is the Late Late Show toy show, which I'm guessing as we record this is probably on later this week. I assume it's a couple of weeks out. Oh, maybe it's gone. Anyway, and like as a child, like, it was just the most fabulous television. That the idea that you'd sit there and just watch a program about toys was just incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. And the whole nation would just sit down and watch. And it's one of those peculiar things when you think back. It's like, you know, it's an oddity that it has continued. My understanding is like it is still incredibly successful television because, you know, it is people my age sitting down with their children watching it. Even though, you know, you don't really need one TV program a year to know what toys are out there. And it made me wonder about...
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it made me wonder how there's never been anything similar on the BBC specifically. Yeah, so actually just watching that top 10 reminded me of how there's like an absence. But that did a great, solid job of putting me into this year, Russ, putting me into this time period. But not nearly as much as the next segment is, Russ, because you are now going to tell us about the cinema box office. So
I am, yes. And also, very quickly, mention the fact that another famous person who's been attacked by Rod Hull and Emu is Gay Byrne from...
oh, yeah, naturally.
From that show.
Yeah, The Late Late Show.
Yeah.
To whom it may concern.
So, top 10, cinema box office, The Lost Boys at 10. Number 9, Roxanne. Number 8, The Dead.
The Dead?
Yeah. It's a John Huston film. John Huston film with Angelica Houston in it.
Oh, wow, okay.
Number 7, White Mischief. Number 6, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Oh, yeah, that is the
Disney
original
re-release.
one.
Yeah.
Number 5, Bigfoot and the Hendersons.
Oh, wow, okay.
Number 4, Inner Space.
Wow.
Is
that a film that you and I have more love for than a lot of people?
I don't know. I don't know. I remember watching it loads as a kid.
Yeah, and it felt like it was on every weekend.
The bit where he fires that grappling hook into the back of his eyeball always makes me wince so much.
Oh my god, yeah, horrible.
Yeah. Number 3, Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Ooh.
Number 2, Cry Freedom. And number 1, Spaceballs.
Well, indeed. Happy Christmas. What about the pop chart, Russ? This is going to be full of classics, right?
Well.
All right, maybe not. Oh, okay.
Number 10, Who Found Who, featuring Elisa Fiorillo. And hang on. And then that's by Jelly Bean, featuring Elisa Fiorillo. That's a weird title. The Look of Love, number 9, Look of Love, Madonna. Mm-hmm. Number 8, Fairy Tale of New York, Pogues. And
I was thinking the Pogues came out in 87, yeah.
Number 7, What Do You Want to Make Those Eyes at Me For? By Shakin' Stevens.
Yep.
Number 6, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree with Mel Smith and Kim Wilde.
Mel and Kim. The other Mel and Kim.
Yeah. Number 5, China in Your Hands by T'Pau. Of course, T'Pau, where did you get that name from?
Don't know.
That is the name of Spock's mother in Star Trek.
Of course, yes.
I think it's his mother. Is that right?
Or, yeah, one of his relatives. Yes, I do remember that name. Nerds.
Hang on. Let me just double check that.
I feel like you've definitely told me that before. Well, you probably lied to me before. Maybe that's what it was. Don't just Google T'Pau, Russ.
Well, she's definitely in. She's definitely in Star. It doesn't say that she's Spock's mum though. I always thought she was Spock's mum. No, Spock's mum's human though, isn't she? So I'm wrong.
She's yeah.
She's a high ranking Vulcan anyway, who presided over fight between Spock and Kirk.
There you go. She's
Anyway.
Spock's corner person. Okay.
Yeah. Number 4, Love Letters, Alison Moyet. Number 3, The Way You're Making Me Feel, Michael Jackson. And number 2, When I Fall in Love, Rick Astley. And number 1, you may have heard it in that top 10 toys rundown. Always on My Mind, Pet Shop Boys.
Yes. Which was the Christmas number 1, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. Prices, Russ. Prices.
So I couldn't find any... What could I? Wait a second. Actually, maybe I didn't look. I don't think I've looked, actually.
Is that because you spent all day watching Rod Hull and Emu?
Maybe.
Is that what you do when we're supposed to be busy preparing for these episodes?
Right. Gallon of petrol, £1.70. Bottle of martini, extra dry, £2.29. Pint of lager, 92 pence. 20 fags, £1.43. The VHS recorder, that's by Sanyu, £319.95. Microwave oven, £99.99. Mobile phone, the Nokia Cinnamon 1320, £1,950. Average house, £54,000. 1.5 litres of Coca-Cola, 59 pence. And a tub of Flora margarine, 28 pence.
Argos catalogue?
Well, Mark. This month, suddenly the eggheads at Tefal have come swooping in.
Oh, you must be furious.
Yeah. It's a Christmas disaster.
Oh my God.
The most expensive kettle in the August catalogue is the Tefal Freeline automatic kettle, lid or spout fill, water level indicator, unique power-based system which disconnects kettle from base for pouring and filling. Maximum capacity 3 pints, 2,200 watts, £27.95.
Whither Russell Hobbs. Disgraceful. Magazine covers, Russ.
I've actually put The New Scientist at the bottom of our
saw that.
document
I've never
because
seen
it's
it.
the most appalling.
What is it?
Cover.
Who did it? I assumed you were going to say it was done by like a famous artist or something.
No, it appears to be done by a child, doesn't it?
It's absolutely
It's
appalling.
absolutely awful.
It's just unfinished.
It's just a really horrible drawing of some people at a Christmas party, but it's really, really badly done.
And it was received after Christmas by the poor library that ordered it.
Unbelievable scenes. Anyway, so there's that.
Sorry.
Scientific American has lunar magnetic fields. Lovely picture of the moon there with some magnetic fields coming out of it. Popular Science has a giant picture of a car tyre. Performance tyres that always go. Also inside, free electron lasers, which is a potent new weapon for Star Wars. Tyre magazine. It's got a couple of starving Africans on the front. Famine. Why are Ethiopians starving again? What should the world do and not do? Probably not worth doing another Live Aid, is it? It seems like the last one didn't work. Private Eye. Sick Joke Special. And it's got Maggie receiving a kiss from a toddler in a hospital bed. And Maggie's saying, "What are you going to do if you grow up?"
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Viz has unemployed, getting a job will be easy once you've read page 21. And then it's got, hang on, who is that climbing the tree there? Oh, it's Buster Gonad climbing a Christmas tree saying, "My massive testes make perfect baubles." And then
I feel like you say that line to me once every month.
And then Playboy, it's a special Christmas issue, and it's got Brigitte Nielsen. Or she's calling herself Brigitte Nielsen Stallone in this. Presumably as well, she's still married to Sylvester Stallone. The lost chapter of Catch-22. A hot interview with Gore Vidal. I swear he's interviewed in every episode of this.
They're never they're not usually hot interviews though.
And an interview with Dennis Quaid, presumably. All about inner space. Probably asking him why he doesn't, spend more time going around certain parts of the people he's injected into.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yes, Russell, I know what you mean. And as you were doing that, I was thinking to myself, we don't learn, we don't change. So let's audit this episode, Russ.
Yep.
What number one question for this audit is: what is the most important invention we saw?
Cake decorator.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It's either that or the pipe cleaner you told me about that we didn't see in the show. The most worthless invention.
Baby feeder.
Oh, I mean, that's so stupid, isn't it? To be fair, I still think that the cauliflower floretter is also stupid.
I can see a use for that. I can see.
Just get a knife and chop them. It's not like it's an impossible task that
If I
someone
was in a
found.
hurry, though.
Are you often in a hurry to turn your cauliflower into florets?
Well, not recently. No. Yeah,
No, okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
I can
alright.
see the situation possibly arising.
Yeah. But either way, I do agree. It's the baby bottle stick. Most inaccurate prediction of the future.
Don't think we can do that, can we?
I don't think so. There's no real projections into the future. So no, I think that's an NA. Wouldn't be the first, to be fair, but yeah, that's an NA. Worst screw up.
Oh, actually,
There's a couple of mush mouth. Go on, sorry.
In the prediction of the future thing, George Takei says in the 21st century we call these a
the 23rd century. Yeah. The gingle gongle.
Or whatever he says.
Yeah. That's true.
I don't think they will call them that in that.
No,
sense,
I think that's correct. I mean, we have no way of disproving him, but
No.
I also feel comfortable saying that that is correct. Worst screw up. There are some, because this is definitely, well, it's not definitely live, but it's probably live. There are definitely some mush mouth moments.
Yeah, I mean, I right at the beginning, Howard says some nonsense. He says, "You're going to have your work cut up out up there, Maggie."
Yeah, that's right. And that's actually like his first throw over, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or I think she throws back to him. So that's very early doors. Yes, I agree. That I picked that one up this time around as well. Best attempt at making something boring interesting. Let me just posit something. I think in anyone's hands, showing off and demonstrating a bike chain cleaner would be boring. But sprinkle that Bob Symes magic. Add an element of competition. You got some electric TV there, Russ.
Absolutely, yeah. Even with the potential,
the plant.
Yeah.
That's just my. That's my.
Yeah. The only other thing I would say was when Macann's demonstrating the chicken cooker, he does a good sort of stunt. With the chicken.
I feel like we're missing the most obvious answer, especially for you.
Yeah.
I mean, the person they bring on to lie about how an object is there to provide safety in hot air balloons is Rod Hull and Emu.
A flightless bird and a man who died falling off a roof.
A man who died from a great height. Yeah, well, not a great height, unfortunately. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So it has to be him, surely.
Yeah. All right.
Not least because you spent half of your day this is a working day for you, and yet you spent half of it watching Rod Hull and Emu. So it has to be that.
I regret nothing.
I'm not saying you should, Russ. I'm just thinking it. Best use of music.
There isn't any music, is there?
The only music is the use of Pet Shop Boys for the top 10, but then that's because you showed it to me and it wasn't in the episode. So
Yeah. I mean, they didn't even play the absolutely banging All Creatures Great and Small theme when they introduced Christopher Timothy, which you would think they would do.
Look, I've been deliberately, because we're going in the radio in an hour and a half, I've deliberately not sworn in this episode, but Russell, fuck off. Oh, well, that's it now. The seal is broken. Best or worst use of furniture?
Ooh.
I don't think wicker baskets count. I'm just going to put that out there.
Okay. Oh, maybe they don't have actually. You would think they would have furniture in this, but I'm just trying to think now.
Well, but by the chairs that we see exposed to the elements, which is such an unusual thing to see these days, I don't think there is any use of furniture. Which actually, when you think about it, as you say, it's surprising that no object involves anything to do with furniture or anything like that.
No, it doesn't, does it? No, you're right.
So, and most notable clothing. So obviously we have the Moira Stuart NFL battle dress, outfit. Yeah. We have Maggie, who looks like she ripped the skin and clothes off the other Maggie.
I mean, Rod's always got a silly suit on of some sort, but it's got to be Howard's jumper, isn't it?
Oh, thank God you said that, because I was beginning to worry that it might be George's cheap Star Trek knockoff they put him in. But you're right, it is Howard's jumper, which is a stunning thing of glory.
I am surprised that George wasn't wearing an official Star Trek uniform.
It does seem a bit
clearly
odd.
A cheap costume one.
Not least because I think the BBC had the rights to Star Trek, didn't they? So it's not like, it's not like they're... Anyway, whatever. Did we see anything in the episode that made it through to the future? Yes. I have to say, Russ, a shockingly large amount.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of variations on those devices did make it through.
Yeah,
Mark.
amazing.
Yeah. I think the one that made it through most perfectly was the bike chain cleaner. There is a bike chain cleaner available on Amazon right now, which looks identical to the one Bob Science has.
Well, then that's the answer. To be fair, when he shows it off, I kind of wish he'd filled it to the waterline where he said it would do. But it's one of those things where you're looking at it like, that looks like that just does that job well.
Yeah.
So that makes perfect sense. I genuinely, we have watched actual episodes of Tomorrow's World where they make actual prognostications about the future and nothing has made it through. And this quiz has a higher hit rate than probably the rest of the series. What does this episode tell us about the 17th of December 1987?
Everyone's having a great laugh and shoulder pads are really...
Locks aplenty, but you must walk sideways through a door if somebody else is coming the opposite direction. So I think we can all agree that is the 17th of December 1987. And then just the final section we have then is our lovely little collection of tropes that we add to as we watch these things. I don't think there's a single presenter who has to speak over a loud noise.
No.
No. Maggie Philbin is in this episode, but her sleeves most certainly do match her body.
They do.
There's nothing to do with oil rigs.
No.
Sadly. Suspiciously obvious brand name of the ad, Free BBC. That whole top 10 thing is just an ad for toys. And that was on the news.
Yeah,
but again, that wasn't on the episode.
It's not on
sorry.
the episode, though. Yeah.
That's good. That's what, if you ask me about this episode in 6 months' time, I'm only going to remember that top 10. But there was nothing else then. There was nothing else that was... Because obviously you wouldn't have brands on because...
I mean,
give the game away.
yeah. I mean, the only thing is Macann using the Bootiful slogan at the beginning, but that's not really...
yes!
That's not really quite the same.
Funnily enough, I meant to jot that down in my notes because... But the thing is, you say that, that joke doesn't work because it's a chicken segment, not a turkey segment.
Yeah.
But he only does the joke because of Bernard Matthews.
Mm.
See, thank you for reminding me that. I think that absolutely does tick that box for us.
Well, you're in charge of the boxes, Mark.
I do have the pen in my hand, so I will add that. Clear and blatant lying.
I mean, well, it's a call my bluff. So I mean, you have to tick it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally
Thank you
made
very
a
much.
lot. It's a
This
castle
episode
of
is
lies.
predicated on it. Yeah. Evil farmers, lazy farmers. But I don't know about evil farmers.
No, I don't think applying glue to a cow's back is particularly evil, is it? I don't know.
No, not really.
Not sure.
Casual sexism.
Rampant sexual assault. That's slightly different from
yes.
from Rod as he chases Professor Reese around the studio pinching her bum. But I don't think that counts, does it?
I would no. I hey, look. Rod Hull is Rod Hull. Well, no, let me rephrase that. Emu is Emu. I mean, he Emu has no genitals, so no. I would remind you of the cow thing that we discussed.
Yeah.
And the cutaway to Howard with binoculars, as per Judith's description of the fact that, farmers would be able to, if they got binoculars, would be able to see whether cows had been mounted in a field. And what does Howard say? Yes, all very tasteful, and Judith's not looking too bad either.
Yeah.
That to me is solid casual sexism.
Yeah, and Howard
I'm
being
very un-Howard-esque.
Howard being lecherous towards Judith of all people.
I didn't like it, Russ. It made me feel very uncomfortable.
That's very sort of Christmas party-esque, isn't it? Where people acting out of character.
The thing is that it's not bawdy, it's too bawdy.
Mm.
No items presented from the gantry. We got how many dad jokes from Howard did we get in this episode?
It was actually wall to wall, just bombarding us with them.
And as you say, it's probably his idea anyway, so it's just an excuse. This is just a dad joke enabler, right? Does the episode end in a damp squib?
No, of course it doesn't.
No,
it's absolutely
it doesn't. No.
Uproarious entertainment.
Lasers?
No, it wasn't actually. No.
No, but there were magnets.
Yes, she demonstrated a magnet with her earring.
Perfectly.
Mm.
There were boats, Russ. Even if it was a lie, I still accept it.
Yeah.
So I think we are good on that one then. And the only thing I have to say is that there were 1,409 episodes of a paltry 1,409 episodes of Tomorrow's World ever. Can you believe how few there were? They're like, I don't know, like hen's teeth, as they say. We have now covered 47 of those episodes, Russ, which means that we have barely 1,362 episodes left to audit.
I feel like you've got chickens on the brain, Mark, there, because you said both poultry and hen's teeth.
Oh! Well, to be fair, poultry is a homonym, right?
Yes, I know, yeah. We're experts on those.
Yeah, we are.
Yes, well, I'll just take this opportunity to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thanks for listening to us over to 2024. We'll be back in 2025, bright and early. I don't know when, don't know what we'll be talking about, but I'm sure it'll be another year of fun and laughter.
Well, I mean, we have our 50th episode to look forward to, Russ.
Oh, good grief, we do, yes. So if anybody has any...
I feel like we have to... Yeah, oh, please, God, if anyone has any ideas...
what we could do to mark our 50th anniversary episode, which will be... Which is 47, so it'll be...
Yeah. 3 episodes time.
March, April, something like that.
Say March, probably, yeah.
March, okay. So if there's anything you think we could do in March for our 50th anniversary... Well, Mark, got to go now. And you've got to go now.
Yes.
Because, well, this isn't even a lie. We're going to be on the radio in an hour and a half time.
Oh, my God, Russ, you're right, yeah. Oh, we are, bloody hell.
So, yeah, I'm going to quickly skim read the autobiographies of Alan Freeman, John O'Coleman, DLT, all of the greats.
Yep.
Pick up some tips before we get on there. Make sure we're absolutely polished.
I'm going to quickly lock myself in a bathroom and get all the swears out of my system.
Go on, do another one now, Mark. Go on.
Oh, fudge off, Russ.
Brilliant. So, yes, until 2025, it's goodbye from us. And if you are on the internet, we will see you tomorrow.
Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas, everyone.